Chapter 1339. When will the supplies arrive? Lin Longjun was communicating with the local medical institute. The head of the medical institute said, 2 days later. Longjun, can you handle it? I'm fine. Lin Longjun smiled. Do as you see fit. But after hanging up, Lin Longjun suddenly received another call. She looked serious and immediately went to the sterile laboratory. No, we have to do the surgery immediately. Lin Longjun made up her mind and quickly picked up the reagent from the table. No. Director Lin, this reagent hasn't been tested yet. The current test results are too strong. After He-jun finished speaking, Lin Longjun had already pulled out the needle. If we don't do the surgery now, she will lose her life. Hearing that, He-jun didn't have time to hesitate and could only assist Lin Longjun in the surgery immediately. Actually, he was afraid that the news of Lin Longjun using the reagent on the patient would be maliciously misinterpreted as it was nearing the conference. If something happened, not only would Lin Longjun's reputation be tarnished for the rest of her life, but it was also very likely that people would spread rumors that Country A's expert team used untested reagents to conduct human experiments and didn't take human life seriously. But fortunately, after 3 hours, the patient was saved. Higgins Group. Boss. You handed the contract to Biyao. The equipment has been tested and we are rushing to produce it in batches. Currently, 2 sets have been sent to the expert team. Biyao nodded lightly and flipped through the contract again. Yu immediately explained, the expert team wants to sign a contract with our company, but President Shang wants you to sign it as a technician. If her identity as the owner of Higgins Group was exposed, there would be a lot of bloodshed, so all this time, she had 2 identities in Higgins Group. The highest decision-maker, Biyao. The expert in the technical core group, V. Shang Yan had originally hoped that she could have a proper name, but Biyao only wanted to save trouble. Got it. Please thank President Shang for me. Biyao hummed in response and signed the contract quickly. Our nation. The expert team's conference was broadcasted live and it even topped the trending searches in China. Everyone in the continent was paying attention to the situation in the north. When people who had only appeared in textbooks finally appeared in front of the public, everyone inexplicably felt a sense of trust and peace of mind. These were people who were at the forefront of human history and had made great contributions to society. They were also beliefs. 555 Lin looks so gentle. This is the real boss. The auras of the researchers are so strong. Lin Longjun, Silver, Michael. They're all winners of the Jane's Prize in Biology. It's the highest honor I'll ever receive in my life. After the live broadcast began, the reporter conducted an interview with the expert team as usual and especially praised the medical skills of Country R. Next. Changing the topic, he asked, Madam Lin Longjun, I heard that your team hasn't received any medical equipment from the country yet. Is that true? F***CK, this reporter is still causing trouble at a time like this? I don't understand foreign languages. They said our country didn't send any equipment to Dean Lin. It's normal for reporters to be curious, but I don't know who spread the news. 3 days ago, we received the supplies from the country. Lin Longjun smiled faintly. Because we think that the northern region will need the first batch of supplies more than us. Face slapping. Face slapping. Director Lin is being patriotic. Our friends in Country R have been poaching Director Lin for decades. How can they not know? Chapter 1340. You're right. We're more concerned about our friends in the north. After the reporter fell silent, another person began to ask, Madam Lin Longjun, you and Ms. Silver should be legends in the industry. But you've been retired for more than 20 years, and you're the leader of the expert team as soon as you return. Do you have any other advantages? These words were pointing directly at Lin Longjun's nose, saying that she was taking advantage of her seniority to seize power. Then, the other reporters' questions swarmed in, and the international audience heard them clearly. Madam Lin Longjun, I admit that you've contributed to many countries, but our nation is still better in terms of technology in this area. May I ask, do you really think that the equipment sent by a nation is comparable to the top equipment built by Silver's laboratory with tens of millions of dollars? That's right. We're very curious if there are any companies in a nation that are assisting Madame Lin Longjuan's expert team. These reporters were obviously prepared. They interrogated Lin Longjuan one by one. They were trying to get Lin Longjuan to step down. Especially at this time, a male reporter with a beer belly laughed disdainfully. Madame Lin Longjuan, you're already the glory of the past. I admit that a nation developed very quickly with you around, and no one could beat you in this field. But now it's not 20 years ago. What can you use to guarantee the lives of the people in the North? A team that can't even find a technology company to cooperate with is worthy of our trust? Your country's scientific research has always been questionable. Hearing this reporter's deliberate provocation, the international live broadcast was in a mess. Ingrates are such people. Didn't Director Lin help them? Doubting our country's scientific research and targeting us all the time? Are they really not afraid that we'll overtake them? That dog is taking revenge. Who asked Director Lin to refuse to develop in our nation? Are the people in a nation delusional? Isn't it normal to ask this person to step down? Silver should be the real leader. The people in a nation are the ones who feel inferior. They think that their country is so powerful just because they have Lin Longjuan. How did a good press conference turn out like this? After a discussion, everyone agreed that it was better to let Silver be the leader of the expert team. Silver's lips curled up, but he was proud. Director Lin, I'm sorry for taking your previous position. Lin Longjuan didn't care. However, just as Silver was about to stand up and speak on behalf of the expert team, someone rushed in from outside the door. He handed a folder to Lin Longjuan. Director Lin, please sign for this personally. Hearing this, Lin Longjuan was puzzled, but she opened the folder and found that it was a contract for cooperation between enterprises. Higgins Group has specially applied to the state to assist Lin Longjuan's team in the experimental project. Hope for approval. Company manager, V. At the same time, the expert team members also received a change in their computer. Lin Longjuan's team's information had been changed. The partner that originally filled in the form of temporarily unavailable suddenly changed. Team leader, Lin Longjuan. Nationality, a country cooperative enterprise. Higgins Group. Person in charge, V. It's Higgins? Everyone's expression changed. They didn't expect such a reversal. That year, Higgins had almost returned to his former glory days, causing turmoil in the industry. Everyone was curious. Where did Higgins's godly skill, V, come from? Chapter 1341. Director Lin, do you know anyone from Higgins? They couldn't help but ask. The senior management of Higgins Group was a mystery, especially the person in charge and the technical core, V. Ever since Higgins Group reappeared in the public eye, well-known laboratories had been inviting them to collaborate. However, the other party's attitude had always been cold and unfathomable. Higgins? Lin Longjuan shook her head. I only know that the founder of this group is an amazing researcher. Then how did Higgins reach an agreement with your team? Before the person could finish, Jun hurried over and whispered to Lin Longjuan, Director Lin, the materials sent by Higgins have arrived. It's 2 sets of medical equipment. Medical equipment? Lin Longjuan was stunned. At the same time, when the others heard Silver's speech on stage, they suddenly snapped back to reality and felt a chill run down their spine. They didn't believe that Higgins would help Lin Longjuan for no reason. Lin Longjuan must know someone from Higgins Group. If she could even invite VE, there was a high probability that she was from Higgins Group. Thinking of this, the other members of the expert team couldn't help but stiffen. They suspected that the big boss of Higgins Group was also watching the live broadcast. So, the one who will lead us to overcome this obstacle is Miss Silver? The reporter was already asking. Silver smiled, her eyes were filled with pride. Everyone is doing this for the people of the North. It doesn't matter who leads us. However, I am confident that I can solve the current problem. Soon. Someone changed the topic and led the conversation to Lin Longjun. It's a pity that Director Lin has been retired for so many years. I didn't expect that the moment she returned, everyone's attention would be on someone else. Does Director Lin mind this change? After leaving the academic circle for more than 20 years, you suddenly became isolated and helpless. You can't even find a partner company. Does Director Lin regret it? The reporters were aggressive and the Chinese netizens in the live broadcast room were furious. Obviously, these reporters were deliberately trying to embarrass Lin Longjun in order to write a few big news stories. Silver suppressed the smile on her face and said slowly, even though Director Lin has been away for 20 years, she should still be respected by everyone. Before she could finish, He-jun suddenly interrupted everyone else. Thank you for your attention to the expert team from Country A. I understand your curiosity about our partner company, but this is an international expert team's press conference. If you're curious, you can find out more about the company in private. You have a business partnership? The reporter subconsciously blurted out in disbelief, but when he came back to his senses, he laughed out loud. Is that so? Since that's the case, why don't you tell everyone which technology company it is? After saying this, suddenly, there was an uproar below the stage, as if something big had happened. At this time, even the camera in the live broadcast room turned and focused on a man in a wheelchair. The man's dark brows and eyes were extremely good-looking. His temperament was gentle and elegant. The corners of his mouth were always smiling, and his suit was unforgettable. President Shang is actually here. The others exclaimed. Damn, this man is so handsome. Who is this? Why is he at the press conference? Let me explain to everyone, the business genius elite, Shang Yan, one of the people in charge of Higgins Group. Chapter 1342. The commenter above is right. CEO Shang is really hard to calm down in the economic circle. He used to be such a high-spirited person, but after the car accident a few years ago, he had been in hiding. I didn't expect to see him again. However, Shang Yan's temperament is becoming more and more fascinating. The charm and elegance of a mature man. Something's wrong with me, help, I'm willing to be my brother's wheelchair. One of the people in charge of Higgins? What does that mean? It means that Shang Yan is Higgins's second boss. The big boss has never been exposed. CEO Shang, may I know what opportunity led you to come here personally? The reporters present were excited. Shang Yan had never been interviewed by the media, but they were able to take photos of Shang Yan today. This was big news. The company is cooperating, so I specially came to take a look. Shang Yan curled his lips and added unhurriedly, the mission given by the boss. Cooperation? Which team is Higgins working with? The reporter froze. How could a leading company like Higgins come to curry favor with a cooperation team? Everyone was confused. After all, they thought that the person most suitable to be Higgins' partner was Silver. However, Silver had already announced that the partner was the Mondo Group, a technology company backed by the Delaney Group. Madame Lin Longjun's team. Shang Yan nodded and smiled at Lin Longjun as a polite greeting. Everyone at the scene was stunned. Didn't they say that Lin Longjun was isolated and couldn't find a cooperative company? What was going on with CEO Higgins, who had delivered himself to her? So, if you have any interviews with Higgins, you can ask me directly. I'm afraid Madame Lin Longjun doesn't have that much time for everyone. Shang Yan's casual words sent chills down the spines of the reporters present. This was obviously a warning. Compared to the researchers who were focused on experiments, Shang Yan, who could stir up a storm in the business world, was someone who could not be offended. The reporters also knew to restrain themselves and carefully asked with smiles, then, who will Higgins Corporation be cooperating with this time? Currently, the technical department, VE, has agreed to cooperate and has sent the newly developed medical equipment to Director Lin's laboratory. These words turned the calm situation into a storm. The reporters' smiles froze. Hearing this answer, they felt as if they had been slapped a few times. Oh my God. It's actually VE. However, the crowd was already boiling with excitement. How was Principal Lin isolated and helpless? This was simply a return with a cheat. Everyone in the high-tech industry knew that VE from the core team of Higgins' technical department was a patent tycoon. It was said that the sales of Higgins' high-end technology products had increased by more than 10 times. So, Mr. Shang, are you saying that Big Boss was the one who facilitated this collaboration? Shang Yan curled his lips and glanced at Silver indifferently. Other than her, is there anyone else who can make me work? As soon as he finished speaking, inexplicably, the people in the live stream exploded. His tone is killing me. I'm sorry. Is this the love of a capitalist? Wait, I remember. Big Boss Higgins is a woman. Is this the redemption story of a business tycoon coming into reality? Due to Shang Yan's sudden appearance, this press conference was trending in various regions. Chapter 1343. Everyone's attention on Lin Longjun had reached an unprecedented climax. Many people even supported Lin Longjun as the leader of the international expert team. In the virus laboratory, Director Lin, the two machines sent by Higgins are even better than the ones from Silver next door. They have an outstanding effect on the detection and oxygen supply of patients. A few members were so excited that they were almost incoherent. Most importantly, this efficient machine had very little consumables, unlike the machine in Silver's laboratory that cost more than 300,000 yuan a day. How can the company next door compare to the things developed by VE? He Jun snorted. Mondo Technology's biggest capital was the Delaney Group. The reason why Delaney and Higgins could become top scientific research companies was because one had, and the other had VE. Why do the big shots like to use strange letters these days? The member muttered. Why do you care about this? Don't you want to hear something fun? Let me tell you, the atmosphere at Silver next door is terrifying. I heard that the expert team has unanimously defected and hopes that Director Lin will take charge of the overall situation. Why? Why else? They're just afraid of Higgins. A month passed. The severity of the infection in the northern part of Continent K had obviously decreased. The people of various countries were glad about this. In a certain border area of Continent K, the mortality rate has been reduced by 75%. The man behind the bed curtains laughed. Should I say that those researchers are more capable, or are you more capable? The person who was asked trembled and immediately knelt down. Master, the leader of the expert team this time is Lin Longjun, the woman who is best at biology and virology in country A. In her hands, she has solved the virus problem of 3 fatal infections. And because of her, Higgins is also doing his best to assist the international expert team. Hearing this, the man on the bed walked out at this moment, but he kicked the person who spoke to the ground. His tone was cold. Trash. You still have the cheek to say that? You can't even handle such a small matter. Where's the data, the human infection data? That person hurriedly got up and knelt down, not daring to look at the man with a dark expression. The data. According to our spy, after Lin Longjun's suggestion, the data is stored in our nation's computing institute. In order to get more insider information, they had a spy in the expert team. Originally, they thought that Silver would definitely become the team leader, but they did not expect that Lin Longjun would appear out of nowhere and completely mess up their plans. Lin Longjun again. That person's eyes were cold. After he finished speaking, he glanced at the people kneeling on the ground and said indifferently, "Get up and speak." The man who was kneeling on the ground trembled as he stood up. He couldn't help but look at the man who had almost killed him. The man looked to be in his 20s or 30s. His skin was fair and delicate, and he had a pair of cold almond-shaped eyes. What left a deep impression on people was his kasaya and the 9 scars on his smooth and clean head. He casually tugged at his collar, not caring about the firm and sexy lines of his muscles that were half exposed. He sipped his tea and asked, "Have you checked Lin Longjun's information?" Lin Longjun is just like the traditional researchers in a country. She is even more diligent and thrifty. But she has a son and a grandson. Her son was her biological son, but he was a hooligan and wasn't close to Lin Longjun. Her granddaughter was picked up from the streets, but I heard that she's Lin Longjun's flesh and blood. This is Lin Longjun's weakness, the man said carefully. Interesting. Qi Wuxiu curled his lips and placed the teacup on the table. It will be a little troublesome for us to deal with the matters in a country. Go and release the people in the dungeon. Chapter 1344. Not long after. A drenched man was carried over and casually thrown to the ground. The man looked up weakly. His eyes were stung by the strong light. Roland, you haven't seen the sun for a long time, right? Help me do something and I'll give you your freedom. Qi Wuxiu curled his lips and said unhurriedly. The man who was fished out of the dungeon said hoarsely, "What do you want me to do?" He had been locked up in the dungeon for more than 10 years and couldn't help but be afraid of this person. Qi Wuxiu was a lunatic, but it seemed that the heavens turned a blind eye to him. He was already in his 40s, but he looked like he was in his 20s or 30s. Go to Yun City and find a person called Biyao. Qi Wuxiu gave him the photo and squatted down in front of him. Find a way to get close to her. I'll give you a mission later. After that, we'll go our separate ways. Qi Wuxiu, how can I trust you? He gritted his teeth and questioned. This lunatic never played by the rules. He used to be a respected monk, but he suddenly burned all the monks in the temple to death overnight and embarked on the path of a terrorist organization. It's up to you whether you want to leave or not. But if you leave and don't work for me. There was no warmth in Qi Wuxiu's eyes. He smiled and said, Roland, if your son finds out that you have something to do with his mother's death, do you think he'll let you go? The middle-aged man flew into a rage out of humiliation. Soon, he could only take a deep breath and gritted his teeth. Qi Wuxiu, you better keep your word. He shouldn't have listened to Qi Wuxiu and seduced Hu Jing. In the beginning, Qi Wuxiu wanted to get close to Hu Jing himself, but he didn't expect Hu Jing to only like looks and take a fancy to Roland who was passing by. After all, although Roland's aptitude was average at that time, his face was impeccably handsome. Therefore, Roland was encouraged by Qi Wuxiu to cooperate and took the initiative to pursue Hu Jing. He quickly coaxed Hu Jing into marrying him. He also completed Qi Wuxiu's final goal, killing Hu Jing and seizing Hu Jing's human data research manuscript. But at that time, it was true that Qi Wuxiu wasn't the only one who had designs on Hu Jing. It was just that Qi Wuxiu was smart enough to control the situation behind the scenes. Hu Jing became famous at a young age and was a true genius in scientific research. However, she did not hide her talent, which attracted too much attention and covetous eyes, after the man in the dungeon left. The subordinate couldn't help but ask, Master, can Roland Fernans be trusted? What are you afraid of? Isn't there still Ji Linling? Qi Wuxiu sneered and glanced at his subordinate. You overestimate Roland's ability. Hua Corporation. The man had just finished a meeting and returned to his office, but he did not expect to see a person lying on the black leather sofa. The girl leaned casually on the sofa. Her black hair was scattered and there was a faint layer of dark circles under her eyes. She looked very tired. Huashidu raised the temperature in the room and covered Biyao with a thin blanket. The next moment, someone grabbed the inside of his suit jacket. The man placed one hand on her waist, and his pale eyes met the little girl's provocative gaze. But what she didn't have experience with was that such a gaze could easily evoke the bad side of a man. Brother, do you really think I'm here to sleep? Beiyanja's eyes were fixed on him as she fearlessly leaned forward and sniffed the faint cold fragrance on the man's neck. She instantly felt much better. Chapter 1345. Beiyang did not notice that the man's eyes had darkened. She was just happy that she could have a good night's sleep tonight. Does it smell good? The man's voice suddenly sounded. Beiyang nodded subconsciously. Before she could say anything, she heard the man's low laughter and joy. Yun, take off my glasses for me, the man said patiently, his fingers caressing the back of her fair neck casually. It was as if he was treating a prey that was within his reach, or a precious treasure. Bei Yunji's brain heated up. For some reason, she subconsciously reached out to take off the man's gold-rimmed glasses on the bridge of his nose. However, at this moment, she realized that the two of them were very close to each other, and this posture was more like Hushido was hugging her. It made her heart throb for some reason. Then, she looked up and met the man's dark eyes. Bei Yunji froze again. After the man observed it, he let go of her hand. "You're so useless." Hushido seemed to be sighing, and his casual voice fell into Bei Yunji's ears. "Bei Yunji, she was very strong, okay?" Belatedly, Bei Yunji suddenly remembered that Hushido wanted to. Her eyes flickered. Hushido was still supporting his head with one hand. His posture was frivolous and casual, but his pale-colored peach blossom eyes were blatantly seductive. He even rubbed his knuckles against her cheek gently. The man continued to tease her and asked, "Why? Are you not convinced?" It was clearly a casual action, but it was so ambiguous. He was not in a hurry, afraid that he would really scare her. "All right, go to sleep." Before Hushido could take out the cigarette in the cigarette box, he was suddenly hugged from the side. Bei Yunji placed one hand on the man's broad shoulder and gently rested her chin on his forearm. She blew into the man's ear. "How are you going to sleep alone, brother?" The unsuspecting man's eyes suddenly darkened, and he even stopped taking out his cigarette. Bei Yunji raised her eyebrows and smiled beside the man's ear. She couldn't help but reach out to touch the mole on the man's Adam's apple. He was still as lawless as ever. At the next moment, Tsing-Su, who had barged into the room, witnessed this scene. His body stiffened and he paused mid-sentence. "Master Du, I just received news that someone has found." Only then did Hushido grab her mischievous hand and remove it. He glanced at her and asked, "Are you asking for a beating?" "Bei Yunji, did this dog man learn how to change his face?" After Hushido pinched his face gently, Pei Qian settled down. "Master Du, Zhou Yu is waiting for you at the hospital," Tsing-Su said carefully. "Yes." It was not hard to tell that Hushido's voice was slightly hoarse. Tsing-Su couldn't help but recall the scene just now. Miss Pei was just like an evil spirit who pulled a deity down from the altar. Just as Tsing-Su was worried that his Master Du would be skinned alive by Bei Yunji, his eyes met with Bei Yunji's half-smile. He almost forgot that he had interrupted Miss Pei's happy occasion just now, as expected. Bei Yunji asked curiously, "Assistant Tseng, you appear at such an important moment. Are you a piece of equipment?" Tsing-Su looked at Hushido for help. However, Hushido turned a blind eye to it and allowed his child to bully others. Tsing-Su, forget it. There was no need for him to ask for something impossible. A few days ago, when Tsing-Su went to deliver the documents, he saw Miss Pei sitting on the sink so sleepy that she could not even open her eyes. However, his Master Du patiently coaxed her to open her mouth and even helped Miss Pei brush her teeth. He knew then that his Master Du was completely hopeless. However, when Miss Pei woke up the next day, she seemed to have forgotten about this matter. Master Du, on the other hand, enjoyed it. Bei Yunji stood up and walked into the lounge. He even glanced at Hushido intentionally and said lightly, "Scumbag. Tsing-Su, put on your shoes." After the man finished speaking, Bei Yunji put on his shoes again and entered the lounge. He even heard the sound of the door being locked. Tsing-Su, Miss Pei is really becoming more and more casual. Impatient little kid. Hushido curled his lips. He knew very well that Bei Yunji had come to look for him as soon as she was done with her work. "Tsing-Su, why do you still have an expression of, 'My little kid is so cute'?" On the way to the hospital, Hushido already knew about the matter, but he did not say a word. Tsing-Su also felt that the atmosphere in the car was oppressive. Hushido's father had been found, but he was currently in the hospital for treatment. Zhou Yu was the first to call Hushido. "Does the old master know about this?" Hushido asked. "Tsing-Su, the old master has been looking for him for so many years. He probably has already received the news." Hushido snorted. "He has a long life." As soon as he finished speaking, Tsing-Su did not dare to reply. Perhaps it was normal for father and son from other prestigious families to not get along, but the relationship between Wuxidu and that person had already reached a tense stage. Wuxidu had never been controlled by this father in name since he was young. Her father had even been caught red-handed in bed by Hu Jing himself. After Hu Jing's death, Wushidu's father disappeared as if he had vanished from the face of the earth. He did not expect that he would suddenly be found today. The old master will be here in the next few days. You guys deal with him. After Wushidu got out of the car, he only said this before walking into the hospital. In the ward, Wushidu looked at the man in front of him who looked a little similar to him but was unbelievably old. There was no emotion in his eyes. When will he wake up? He asked. The attending doctor said, Mr. Tang will wake up in the next 2 days. Although Wushidu's father was from a top-notch prestigious family, he was of mixed blood from another family. He was sent back to the Fernan's family when he was 9 years old. His name was Tang Boyang. However, Old Master Fernan's doted on this son the most because he was born from the woman Old Master Fernan's loved the most in his life. Zhou Yu, come out with me. Wushidu walked to the long corridor and glanced at him. Who kidnapped him? It should be an organization from Continent K. When I brought people to fight, the other party didn't seem to want to hurt. Mr. Tang, Zhou Yu said. If the other party didn't do it on purpose, would Tang Boyang have been able to escape? Wushidu sneered casually. But Mr. Tang has many injuries on his body. He seems to have been locked up for more than 10 years. Zhou Yu said carefully. When he wakes up, get someone to follow him. Yes. At night. Tang Boyang touched the sutured wound and frowned in pain. However, he did not expect to see a beautiful girl when he looked up. Was this the person Qi Wuxiu asked him to find? A dark look flashed across Tang Boyang's eyes and he asked hoarsely, Who are you? Only then did Bei Yunj stop reading the documents. However, before she could speak, a voice came from outside the door. You're awake? Chapter 1346. Shidu. The moment he saw Wushidu, Tang Boyang's eyes turned red and his voice trembled. It's been so long since we last met. I didn't expect you to be alive. The man's casual words broke the atmosphere of the reunion after a long separation. Bei Yunj looked at him subconsciously. This was the first time she saw her brother treat his elders like this. Shidu, I was wrong in the past. I just didn't know how to face your mother back then. I didn't. Before Tang Boyang could cry, he heard Wushidu say casually, Is that so? If you really feel so apologetic towards her, I'll get someone to send you to the cemetery later. You can have a good chat. Instantly, Tang Boyang stiffened. At this moment, it was already dark outside. Furthermore, Tang Boyang felt guilty. How could he dare to face Wu Jing's tombstone? Bei Yunj looked at the scene thoughtfully and could roughly guess the reason. At this moment, Tang Boyang's gaze also landed on Bei Yunj. A strange look flashed past his eyes. This is, Mr. Tang, my name is Bei Yunj. Bei Yunj was unusually distant. This form of address made Tang Boyang's expression stiffen. He was very dissatisfied with Bei Yunj. Forget about Shidu. After all, he was his son. But what about this silly girl? How could she treat him like this? However, what Tang Boyang did not expect was that Shidu was unusually close to Bei Yunj. Let Sing Su send you home to rest first. Wushidu rubbed Bei Yunj's head. Bei Yunj thought for a moment. All right. Soon. After the two of them left, Tang Boyang immediately got out of bed and made a call. Qi Wuxiu. I saw Bei Yunj. Wushidu returned after about 10 minutes. Tang Boyang was already lying on the bed again, looking like a loving father. Shidu, have you been well all these years? Do you think I'm here to reminisce? Wushidu raised his thin eyelids. Shidu, you can blame me, but there are no parents in the world who don't love their children, Tang Boyang said emotionally. Wushidu took out a cigarette box from his pocket and casually lit a cigarette. He did not care that this was a ward. Tang Boyang quickly stopped talking. He had also sensed that Hua Shidu's personality was not like Hua Jing's, nor was it like his. He could not guess the person in front of him at all. He changed the topic. Shidu, how long has that little girl been with you? Tang Boyang used the tone of an experienced person and casually instructed, men can be played with or raised outside, but don't put too much effort into it. After all, Bai Yunj was indeed impeccably beautiful. Who knew? Hua Shidu asked calmly, why? You're living like this and you want to impart your life experience to me? This ridicule made Tang Boyang's face turn into the color of pig liver. Why did they let you go? Hua Shidu suddenly asked. Tang Boyang instantly felt guilty. I escaped by myself. After saying this, the atmosphere was silent for a long time. Tang Boyang looked up and met Hua Shidu's cold gaze. His heart skipped a beat. He only snorted. Is that so? Then he's really a good-for-nothing. Before Tang Boyang could think deeply about this sentence, Hua Shidu was about to leave. Shidu. Hua Shidu stopped in his tracks, but only put out the cigarette butt. By the way, my daughter is young and doesn't have any concept of marriage. I don't want anyone to cause trouble for me. Chapter 1347. Tang Boyang's expression was terrible. Of course, he knew that this meant that he was terrible and wanted him to stay away from Bai Yunj. As her biological father, how could he be inferior to an outsider? In the long corridor. Master Du, when you went out just now, Mr. Tang made an international call. However, it's a community call. He needs time to investigate, Zhou Yu said. Okay. The man replied indifferently. Did you find out anything just now? Zhou Yu asked cautiously. The fact that he can appear in front of me alive means that he has an unshirkable responsibility for what happened more than 10 years ago. Hua Shidu's pale-colored eyes were almost cold as the corners of his thin red lips curled up. Qi Wuxiu is crazy, but he's not stupid. Are you sure it's Qi Wuxiu? Zhou Yu did not expect Hua Shidu to lock onto the suspect so quickly. Qi Wuxiu's usual style is to hide anything that can still be used. Hua Shidu looked up and saw the girl sitting on the bench on the first floor. His pale-colored eyes, which were filled with indifference, immediately softened. As he unbuttoned his suit jacket, he said leisurely, the net has been open for so many years. How can there only be one fish? By the time Zhou Yu came back to his senses, Hua Shidu had already stepped forward and draped his jacket over Bai Yunj's slender and fair legs. He knelt on one knee in front of the girl. Why are you back? The man curled his lips and opened his arms to her. Hug. Bai Yunj thought for a moment, then slowly picked up the jacket on her knees and covered her head. Hua Shidu had just raised his eyebrows when Bai Yunj suddenly hugged him and hugged his neck. She hugged the handsome and dignified man in front of her tightly. I'm here to coax our master Du, Hua Shidu heard someone say lazily. Why are you putting this on your head? Bai Yunj said, I still want my face. After all, there were so many people. She thought for a moment and decided to open her suit jacket with both hands to reveal her furry head. She leaned closer and asked, do you want it? No. Under everyone's gaze, the man hugged the girl's waist and buttocks and said calmly, let's take your life first. Not far away, Zhou Yu watched as Hua Shidu carried a certain someone in Pei Qian's arms and walked down the stairs. Master Du really spoiled Miss Pei like she was his ancestor. But it was true. If it weren't for Bai Yunj, Hua Shidu would have gone to Continent K long ago and put away this big net that had been set up for more than 10 years. Brother. On the way, Bai Yunj suddenly shouted. The man was still looking at the road. I'm not saying that you're shameless. Bai Yunj poked her head out of the jacket and realized that there was something wrong with the conversation just now. Okay, cover your face well. Hua Shidu only sneered and glanced at the little girl. Bai Yunj, did she coax him into becoming angry? Do you not want to see me? Bai Yunj suddenly said this, and even Hua Shidu stopped in his tracks for a moment. He couldn't remember anything from this child. He only remembered that time when he caught her from the bar and said, "Brother will be unhappy when he sees Yun now." Baiyang saw that the man was silent and consciously retracted her head. But suddenly, Huashidu held her waist and buttocks with one hand and held the back of her head with the other. Then, the man raised his chin and kissed her forehead. Baiyang was stunned. He gently pulled his jacket over her. The two of them were in the dark and intimate space. The ambiguous atmosphere made her face burn. Hearing his magnetic and hoarse voice, she chuckled. Brother doesn't want others to see our union blushing. Chapter 1348. The man's hot breath because of his arousal made her cheeks warm. The corners of Huashidu's lips curled up gently. He rubbed her head and covered the little girl's head with his jacket again. After coming back to her senses, Baiyang avoided his gaze and leaned on the man's shoulder again. She did not say a word. The next day, as expected, not long after, Huashidu received news that Fernans had come to Yuncheng. This news quickly spread throughout the upper-class society. Many people could not help but want to meet this business tycoon of our nation. "Roland, how are you feeling?" Fernans was still very worried about his son. His old eyes were red and he felt very guilty. It was because he was useless that his son was kidnapped and imprisoned for more than 10 years. "Dad, I'm fine now." Tang Boyang heaved a sigh of relief when he saw Fernan's concerned expression. "It's just that Shidu doesn't seem to want to acknowledge me." As soon as he finished speaking, unexpectedly, Fernand said matter-of-factly, "The person who gave birth to him is Hua Jing. The person who raised him is old Madame Hua. How can he acknowledge you?" Tang Boyang froze when he heard this. "Dad, I already know my mistake." Fernand sighed. "Even I can't understand that child, Shidu. It's not easy for you to get his forgiveness." "Dad, don't worry. I'll let Shidu see my hard work." Yun University. Baiyang had just finished a day of classes and left the teaching building. She walked to the vending machine and bought a can of Coke. She mentioned something to Lu Zhongzhou. "Captain Lu, someone followed me today." "Followed?" Because they were in school, Lu Zhongzhou was not on guard and did not notice it first. 20 meters away, wearing a mask. Baiyang prepared to return to the dormitory after speaking. When Lu Zhongzhou heard this, his gaze immediately became vigilant and serious. Indeed, not long after, he discovered a sneaky figure. During this period of time, because Baiyang was at Yun University, it could be said that she was very safe, so Team Wolf returned to the base. However, he did not expect that someone would follow Baiyang to the school. "Hello?" "Inform Tan Nan that Team Wolf will return to Miss Pei's side immediately," Lu Zhongzhou said. "Captain, what happened? With our hunting eagle team here, why did we let Wolf team come back?" The team member asked unhappily. "Today, Miss Pei was followed. None of our team members noticed. If Miss Pei were to report this, she would be punished," Lu Zhongzhou said expressionlessly. Instantly, the expressions of the entire team changed. However, they also knew that Baiyang was not the type to complain. "I'm warning you, be on your guard during this period of time. I won't allow anyone to touch a single strand of Miss Pei's hair." "Yes." "Investigation team, investigate the background of the masked man and report to the higher-ups immediately." "Got it." The members of the Falcon team were all rubbing their fists. Their bones were itching for a fight. However, the people who were sent to follow him didn't expect that the organization, which originally wanted to avoid Country A's war zone, would be directly exposed to the war zone because of tracking this person. Furthermore, they even ran into two of the most horrifying dagger teams in the war zone. Within a few days, Tang Boyang recovered and was discharged from the hospital. Because of his identity as the most favored, young master, in the Fernans family, he was once again surrounded by a group of people who wanted to curry favor with him. The Hua family. Huashidu had just returned to the old residence when he saw old Master Fernans chatting with old Madame Hua. Tang Boyang was also there, and there was a young woman sitting beside him. Chapter 1349. It was Bo Jinxiao. After Qin Youjiao was taken down and left the International Musicians Association, Bo Jinxiao's status in the industry rose. After all, no matter what, Bo Jinxiao was the most talented junior in the International Musicians Association, and the current International Musicians Association was on par with her. Shidu. Tang Boyang was the first to speak. After regaining his identity and his previous treatment, Tang Boyang's face was glowing and his eyes were as bright as before. With old Madame Hua around, Hua Shidu could only go forward. You don't have an appointment to play cards today? Hua Shidu looked at old Madame Hua. Old Madame Hua's face flushed red in front of everyone. I only play once in a while. How can I go every day? As for Bo Jinxiao, her face was already flushed and she looked embarrassed when she saw Hua Shidu. Master Du, Hua Shidu glanced at her carelessly, but there was no emotion in his eyes. However, Tang Boyang was extremely satisfied with Bo Jinxiao. Tang Boyang had always liked girls who studied art, just like Momo's mother. However, Bai Yunj was like Hua Jing, a scientific researcher. She was clearly just a woman. Why did she have to learn such things? Tang Boyang was disgusted. Shidu, Qiao Qiao is a few years younger than you. She can call you brother. Tang Boyang smiled. Oh. Hearing Hua Shidu's deep voice with a slight raise at the end, Bo Jinxiao's heart thumped wildly. However, Hua Shidu turned back to look at Tang Boyang and snorted. Is this your illegitimate daughter too? Instantly. The entire place froze. Shidu, what are you talking about? Tang Boyang was furious, but he did not dare to say anything harsh to Hua Shidu. If she's really an illegitimate daughter, bring her back to Neely as soon as possible, but Momo doesn't like older sisters with unknown backgrounds. Hua Shidu's attitude was clearly that he did not want to have anything to do with them. At the same time, Tang Boyang's face turned red as he remembered that Hua Shidu had raised Momo. Bo Jinxiao's expression was ugly and she bit her lip unconsciously. Shidu. Old Madame Hua reprimanded Hua Shidu lightly. Hua Shidu casually pulled his tie. I'll go upstairs to see Momo. Shidu, your grandfather is holding a banquet outside tonight. Will you give him face and go? Old Madame Hua's voice was obviously pleading. The elderly were soft-hearted and always hoped that the family would be peaceful and everything would prosper. Go. Hua Shidu looked at old Madame Hua and agreed. Old Madame Hua jumped up happily and immediately walked over to pull Hua Shidu. She whispered, I've already told Gu, When the time comes, you can bring Gu along. It'll save you the trouble. After that. Old Madame Hua glanced at Bo Jinxiao. When Bai Yunj received the message, Higgins also received a message. Niayu, boss, aren't you going to say a few words during the celebration? Niayu, there have been a lot of social engagements recently, and they were all handled by Boss Shang. Niayu kept hinting at Bai Yunj, hoping that she would feel a little guilty. However, Bai Yunj glanced at the message and replied calmly. Not free. By the time Bai Yunj had finished replying, she was already on her way to the hotel where the banquet was being held. However, she did not expect Fernans to give the opportunity to set up the banquet to Tang Boyang. In order to matchmake Hua Shidu and Bo Jinxiao, Tang Boyang had even invited many people from the industry to put pressure on Bai Yunj and embarrass her. Platinum Gold Royal Hotel. Mr. Nia? Fernan's assistant, who was beside Tang Boyang, recognized Niayu. Why are you here? With that said, he immediately introduced, Mr. Tang, this is Mr. Niayu, a senior executive of Higgins Corporation. Chapter 1350. Seeing that his father's assistant's attitude was surprisingly good, Tang Boyang immediately understood. Mr. Nia, I've long heard of your name. Niayu only smiled politely at this gesture of goodwill. Mr. Fernans, you're too polite. His attitude of being neither close nor distant was hard to grasp. However, Tang Boyang also knew that Niayu had the confidence. Tang Boyang smiled. President Nia, you can call me Tang Boyang. May I know why President Nia is here at Platinum Gold Royal Hotel today? Niayu's expression did not look good when he thought of what had just happened. He gave a fake smile. It's nothing. It's just that our company is having a gathering today and a very important person can't come. A very important person? Tang Boyang and his assistant were surprised. They did not expect someone to not give Niayu face. Could it be that person? The assistant quickly thought of someone and his eyes widened. Tang Boyang could not react and could only look at his assistant. Nance's appointed successor, the one who has been in power for a year and made Higgins Corporation regain its glory. However, I've never seen that boss appear. After the assistant finished explaining, seeing that Niayu was silent, he knew that it was really that big boss. So, the boss of the Higgins group was very likely to show up here today. A strong sense of pity appeared in the assistant's eyes. Ever since Higgins Corporation regained its glory, the technology industry had developed rapidly and become a popular company. Everyone wanted to squeeze in and build a relationship with Higgins Corporation. However, Shang Yan had always looked easy to talk to, but his heart was like a rock. As for that big boss, there was no news of him in the industry. President Nia, since we're hosting today, why don't you come and support us? Seeing that Niayu was worried, Tang Boyang immediately said, settle your internal dinner first. You just have to come and have a drink. Sure. After Niayu agreed, joy appeared in Tang Boyang's eyes. Soon. Bei Yunj, who had just arrived at the door of the private room, heard the discussion inside. Jin Xiao is already so old, but you haven't thought of finding a boyfriend? Tang Boyang asked with a smile. Not only was he satisfied with Bo Jinxiao's identity as a member of the Music Alliance, but he also felt that the Bo family was richer than the Qin family. Even the Qin family's current strength was no less than the Bo family's. Bo Jinxiao blushed. I was worried about my schoolwork and the training of the Musical Alliance was very busy, so there was nothing to talk about. Hearing Bo Jinxiao say this, Tang Boyang looked even more satisfied. Young master is so cute. Actually, I've always wanted a younger brother. Bo Jinxiao changed the topic and looked at the quiet Momo with a smile. However, when she glanced at Ah Si, who was beside Momo, her smile was a little stiff. She was afraid of dogs. When she was brought to the Hua family by Tang Boyang, she wanted to get close to Momo so that the Hua family would notice her, but she was shocked by this Alaskan Malamute. What was even more unexpected was that Momo had brought this dog over today. Momo, why did you bring a dog to a restaurant? Tang Boyang suppressed his impatience and asked. Momo just lowered her head and hugged Alice without saying anything. This angered Tang Boyang so much that his teeth itched. They were clearly his children, but in the end, all of them were going against him. Meanwhile, suddenly, a frivolous whistle sounded from the door. Ah Si, who was licking its fur, was instantly energized and suddenly rushed toward the door. Bei Yunj almost fell from Ah Si's pounce. Ah Si wagged its tail and circled her for a long time before she squatted down and stroked its fur comfortingly. Momo's eyes lit up. Sister. Chapter 1351. Seeing Momo running towards Bei Yunj with shining eyes, Tang Boyang and Bo Jinxiao's expressions did not look good. Why did you bring Erga here? Bei Yunj covered Alas's mouth with one hand, preventing it from approaching. Momo hugged Bei Yunj pitifully. Momo is scared alone. The atmosphere was cold. The rest of the people looked at this little young master who had a cold and noble expression just now. Weren't they human? Bei Yunj raised an eyebrow. Before she could say anything, she heard Tang Boyang laugh coldly. Jin Xiao, not all girls are like you. For the sake of the International Music Alliance and studies, they don't even have time to make friends. Some people have been going to men's houses since high school. Bo Jinxiao pretended to be at a loss, but she could not help feeling smug. What was so great about Bei Yunj? Even if Washidu took a fancy to her, she would not be able to enter Fernanz's house. Bei Yunj glanced at Tang Boyang slowly and only licked his cheeks, suppressing his temper. Brother was the one who seduced sister on purpose. Momo's unexpected words shocked everyone. What? Tang Boyang's face was slapped in public and his expression darkened instantly. Momo, what nonsense are you talking about? I'm not wrong. Sister Yun should have married me. Brother was the one who secretly threatened me to stay away from sister and didn't let me tell sister. Momo's soft face was filled with coldness. It was all that smiling fox brother's fault. Bei Yunj was speechless. What kind of mess are these two brothers up to behind my back? Tang Boyang was so angry that he could not speak. In the end, he was called away by his assistant, who said that he was picking up a few distinguished guests. On the field. Bo Jinxiao said generously, Miss Pei, you don't have to be polite. Just treat it as your own house. These words were as if she was already the mistress of the house. Hatred flashed past Bo Jinxiao's eyes. She was also deliberately putting Bei Yunj in her place. If it wasn't for Bei Yunj, how could Chu Zhixing, who had always been obedient to her, treat her as a stranger? Soon, she heard the person beside her exclaim in surprise. Miss Bo, your ring looks expensive, right? Bo Jinxiao restrained her emotions and smiled shyly. Uncle Tang gave this to me. Uncle Tang said that he used this ring when he proposed back then. Everyone had different expressions on their faces. Tang Boyang had appointed her as the young madam of the Hua family. The late madam's things had actually been given to Bo Jinxiao. Many people couldn't help but look at Bei Yunj. Some of them felt sorry for her, while others were gloating over her misfortune. Bei Yunj, on the other hand, was drinking her tea. She didn't look angry at all. Miss Pei, you don't seem very happy. Bo Jinxiao suddenly asked. Only then did Bei Yunj look up slowly. Huh. Congratulations then. After saying this. Before Bo Jinxiao could speak, she heard her say again, although Mr. Tang is a little older, true love doesn't depend on age. You. Bo Jinxiao's eyes were filled with anger and her pretty face flushed red. However, in order to not lose her dignity, she could only swallow her anger. Then, Bo Jinxiao saw Momo from the corner of her eye and walked over with a plate of desserts. She asked gently, Momo, come and play with me, okay? Who knew? A lass suddenly jumped out from Momo's side and ran toward her with its tail wagging. Bo Jinxiao was so frightened that her face paled and she immediately threw the hot tea on the table at it. Get lost. Get lost. A lass immediately wailed miserably, whimpering softly as it shrunk its tail and hid in the corner, trembling. Alas. Momo immediately ran over, wanting to comfort a lass, but was avoided. It trembled for a while before it lowered its head to lick the spot where it had been scalded. At this moment, Bei Yunj, whose expression had not changed, instantly turned cold. End of chapter. Chapter 1352. Alas. Bei Yunj called out and Alas walked to her side. After Bei Yunj rubbed its head to comfort it, it whimpered dejectedly. Good boy. Bei Yunj coaxed softly. After looking at Alas' horribly scalded wound, the coldness in her eyes deepened. She looked for the hotel manager and took Alas to treat the burn before she glanced at Bo Jinxiao. As for the others, seeing the tense atmosphere, they swallowed and only wanted to escape from the scene of hell. Bo Jinxiao's first reaction was to be afraid of Bei Yunj, but at the thought of the hatred between her and Bei Yunj, she only smiled. Miss Pei, I'm really sorry. I heard that this is your dog. In that case, I'll pay for all the medical expenses of the dog. Medical expenses? Bei Yunj snorted softly, but everyone shivered inexplicably. Miss Pei, it's not appropriate to be unhappy with me at such an occasion because of a dog, is it? A strange glint flashed past Bo Jinxiao's eyes, deliberately angering Bei Yunj. If Bei Yunj really dared to hit her at such an occasion, Tang Boyang would definitely hate this woman even more. Not appropriate? Bei Yunj licked her red lips and laughed ambiguously. The next moment, she suddenly grabbed Bo Jinxiao's chin. Bei Yunj, what are you doing? Bo Jinxiao did not expect Bei Yunj to have such a reaction. When she looked up and met her fierce eyes, she was shocked. At first, she thought that she would at most be slapped by Bei Yunj, but now, she was starting to feel afraid when she saw Bei Yunj's gaze. I'm teaching Miss Bo. As long as I want to do it, there's nothing inappropriate. With that said, Bei Yunj pinched her chin and pushed her out ruthlessly. Bo Jinxiao fell against the wall of the corridor, her face pale from fright. Her entire body was in so much pain that it felt like her bones were about to break. Help, help, Miss Pei, you. Just as the onlookers were about to say something, Bei Yunj turned around and kicked the half-open door open. The sound of the collision was frightening. She asked calmly, you can't shut your mouth? No one wanted to anger this god of death. Then he came back to his senses. Bo Jinxiao was dragged down the long corridor. What should we do? Go find Mr. Tang. Hurry up and find Mr. Tang. The few of them left in a hurry. But at the same time, the autumn wind was refreshing, and the night was already cold. But Bo Jinxiao was thrown into the swimming pool unprepared. Help! After Bo Jinxiao finished speaking, she choked on a few mouthfuls of water and became embarrassed and disheveled. She raised her head with difficulty and splashed water. I don't know how to swim, however. However, the figure in front of him remained indifferent. He only squatted down and gently stirred the water with his fingertips. Miss Bo, can we have a chat? How much do you think you're worth? Bei Yunj had no intention of saving her. The corners of her lips curled up as her eyes were filled with coldness. Bo Jinxiao shivered and could only flap her arms and legs with all her might. However, her hands and feet were gradually freezing and she choked on more and more water. She was about to lose consciousness. Bei Yunj, how dare you? Suddenly, Tang Boyong, who had rushed over, finished reprimanding her angrily and shouted at the security guard, aren't you going to save her? The security guard immediately went into the water to fish Bo Jinxiao out and hurriedly pressed her chest to make her spit out the water. However, at this moment, Bo Jinxiao woke up in a sorry state and was trembling all over. End of chapter. Chapter 1353. Uncle Tang. It was Bo Jinxiao's first time being treated like this and she couldn't help but cry. The service staff beside her quickly wrapped a towel around Bo Jinxiao and told her to change her clothes quickly. Jinxiao, don't worry. I'll definitely seek justice for you. Tang Boyong was furious too. When he went to pick up old Master Bo just now, he had been given a lot of attitude. It was not easy for him to ease their relationship, but in the end, this Bei Yunj actually dared to throw him into the water? And it was all because of this bastard? Bei Yunj. These words seemed to have been squeezed out from the gaps between Tang Boyang's teeth. However, Bei Yunj raised his eyebrows and looked at him carelessly for a while. Then, he picked up the wine glass on the table and prepared to leave. Stop right there. Where are you going? Tang Boyang gritted his teeth and asked. Bei Yunj glanced at him and asked casually, why aren't you eating? Are you staying here to watch over your coffin? You. Tang Boyang was so angry that blood rushed into his brain and his eyes turned black. How could there be such an unscrupulous bastard? Even Hu Jing back then did not make Tang Boyang so angry that he had a cerebral hemorrhage. After Bei Yunj left, he did not go upstairs. Instead, he stopped at the corner of the dark corridor. Xian Yuan, help me find out where Tang Boyang has been these few years. The person on the other end of the line was surprised. Tang Boyang? The one from the Fernan's family? Max, do you have a feud with him? Xian Yuan added, that's not right. Isn't your partner the heir of the Fernan's family? Is there a problem? Bei Yunj asked. That's your future father-in-law. He's almost half a father. Yes, so he better pray that he's not doing anything illegal. Otherwise, I can save the money of sending him to a nursing home and just send him to the police station. Bei Yunj smiled. Xian Yuan was speechless. What kind of disrespectful speech was this? He didn't understand and asked, aren't you afraid that if you send your father-in-law to prison, the one in your family will cut off all ties with you? Bei Yunj tilted her head. Why aren't you worried that I'll coax my partner into bed while she's heartbroken? Xian Yuan, the scum, was actually right beside her. That's outrageous. She dares to be arrogant just because Shirdu dotes on her? Tang Boyang was furious. The assistant said softly, Sir, I heard from the butler that old master likes Miss Pei. It was not easy to make old Mr. Fernans like her. You put on an act in front of my father, but in front of me, you show your true colors. Tang Boyang sneered. When he walked into the private room, he heard old Master Bo frown and ask, What happened? I heard you cursing from afar. Old Master Bo did not treat Tang Boyang well because when the Bo family and the Hua family were on good terms in the past, he knew that the Hua family's daughter had been cheated on. Therefore, in old Master Bo's eyes, Tang Boyang was a complete scumbag. Old Master Bo, I'm really sorry. Jin Xiao is filial and specially came to the banquet, but she was thrown into the swimming pool. A dark look flashed past Tang Boyang's eyes and he pretended to sigh angrily. Fernans had a very good impression of this old Master Bo. Since he could not offend him, he would let Bei Yunj teach him a lesson this time. What? Hearing that Bo Jinxiao was humiliated, old Master Bo's expression darkened. Grandpa Bo, especially at this time, Bo Jinxiao's face was pale and she was being helped in crying. Digression. Before publishing, I brought the lost children home and did a poster campaign. Follow this book's post, after being doted on by the big shots, and old Sue on Weibo. For every 100 posts, you will be given a poster. There are only 100 posters for this campaign. The B poster is Director Lin personally draping the national flag over Master Pei. Apart from that, children who want to be published have to follow the news on Weibo. Old Sue can't send the link to you. Chapter 1354. Although old Master Bo did not dote on this distant granddaughter who was not closely related to him by blood, she had indeed grown up in the Bo family. What the hell is going on? Bo Jinxiao started to cry. She only said that she had accidentally spilled water on the other party's pet and had been thrown into the water. Grandpa Bo, you know that Jinxiao is afraid of water. If it wasn't for Mr. Tang just now, she would have really died there. Tang Boyang immediately acted like an elder and said humbly, Old Master Bo, I didn't protect Jinxiao well. The woman my son raised is actually so daring. Shidu's woman? Old Master Bo's originally dark face immediately brightened. Tang Boyang hurriedly explained, Yes. But Old Master Bo, you know that the heir of our Fernan's family will never agree to a vase marrying into our family. Actually, even if it was the Bo family, it would be too good for them to be matched with the Fernan's family. However, Tang Boyang did not want Hua Shidu to marry a woman from our country. In his opinion, Hua Shidu was even harder to control. Old Master Bo frowned and felt that these words were a little ear-piercing. He only said calmly, Let her come and eat. In the ears of others, Old Master Bo was ready to pursue the matter. At the same time, in the medical room, Alas was forced to shave off its fur. Miss, your beloved dog is a little fierce. The doctor did not know where to start. After being scalded, Alas's personality suddenly became much fiercer and it did not let strangers get close to it. Bei Yunj could only put on her latex gloves and sit beside Alas. Ergu, do you see if there's anything to eat in my pocket? Alas had just turned its head when Bei Yunj pressed Alas's head down and said slowly, Shave it quickly. The doctor reacted and immediately started to prepare. On the other hand, Alas's body trembled and it felt that a disaster was about to befall it. It struggled with all its might. However, it did not dare to hurt its master. Soon, Alas saw that most of its fur had gone bald and its pitiful dog eyes were filled with shock, as if it had been dealt a huge blow. After the medicine was applied, Alas turned its head and turned its back to Bei Yunj, ignoring her. Ergu? Alas pretended not to hear her. Bei Yunj licked her lips and chuckled. She slowly took off her gloves and said, Don't do that, Guzzi. For you, I was prepared to be bitten and get a rabies vaccine. Hearing the interaction between the man and the dog, the doctors held back their laughter. Not long after, Bei Yunj received a phone call. Tang Boyang said in an extremely bad tone, "Are you still not coming back? Do you know shame after doing such a thing?" Bei Yunj hung up the phone before she could finish. "Sister, Alice won't die, right?" Momo's eyes were red as she asked while choking with sobs. "No, but Mo wants to have a meal with her sister first, and then come to pick up Alice." "All right." Momo ran to Eris and gave him some instructions in a childish voice. Then, she left with Bei Yunj. Bei Yunj and Mo were outside the private room when they heard the angry voices inside. "Is such a woman worthy of entering our Fernan's family? What a joke. Uncle Tang, don't let Master Du hear your words." Yu Hanran did not try to persuade him. He only gloated and added fuel to the fire. Meanwhile, Nyayu, who had just arrived, listened with relish. Occasionally, he would condemn her in his heart. He did not expect such a vicious woman to exist in this world. However, when Bei Yunj kicked the door open, Bo Jinxiao, who was crying, immediately shivered. Chapter 1355. Bei Yunj, are you unapologetic? Tang Boyang questioned with a dark face. At this moment, Nyayu was even more dumbfounded when he saw Bei Yunj appear in front of him. What the F***ck was going on? Wasn't this person not free to attend their company gathering? The atmosphere was cold, but before anyone could react, they heard Yu Hanran say with a smile, Master Pei, come sit with me." Bei Yunj glanced at him lazily, but sat on the other side, not giving Yu Hanran any face. This was very big boss. However, Yu Hanran did not get angry. He only spoke to Bei Yunj with a cheeky smile. Until the next moment. Everyone saw old Master Bo suddenly stand up and pick up the wine glass on the table. His face was dark, and even his hand that was holding the wine glass seemed to be trembling with anger. Seeing this, everyone gasped. Even the atmosphere became tense. They did not dare to imagine what kind of terrifying scene would happen next. "Old Master Bo, I didn't manage my son well. When I go back," Tang Boyang had just suppressed the smile on his face and wanted to say something when old Master Bo interrupted him agitatedly. "Your teacher Yuan?" Old Master Bo was almost incoherent as he asked her nervously and softly. Instantly, the atmosphere was broken and everyone was dumbfounded. Why would old Master Bo call this female student teacher? Bei Yunj did not have any impression of old Master Bo and could not help but raise his eyebrows. "You are?" Old Master Bo was extremely excited. "Teacher, I was a member of the International Musicians Association 2 years ago. It was all thanks to you that I was able to enter the International Musicians Association successfully." Bei Yunj remembered. "You don't have to thank me. I'm just doing it because you're talented." Old Master Bo's score back then was very favored by Bei Yunj. Although the other examiners did not allow it, they could not resist Bei Yunj's love and old Master Bo's ability to understand. "Teacher, I'll toast you. I really didn't expect to meet you here." Ever since old Master Bo found out that Yuan was the eldest daughter of the Qin family, he wanted to visit her, but he was afraid that it would be rude. That was why he was so excited today. But when Tang Boyang saw this scene, his face almost froze, and his brain was in a mess. Wasn't Bei Yunj a physics student at Yunhua University? How did she get involved with the International Musicians Association? Back then, Tang Boyang had also taken a fancy to Bo Shan's identity as a member of the Qiao Yin Alliance, so he wanted her to be with Washidu. After all, the profound Note Alliance's connections were a huge asset. She didn't expect Bei Yunj to be a member of the International Musicians Association, and her status wasn't low either. Tang Boyang turned around and saw that Bo Jinxiao's eyes were red. It was obvious that she already knew Bei Yunj's identity. His face instantly darkened. Why didn't this idiot tell him about this earlier? As expected. Then, old Master Bo asked in confusion, "Teacher, did Jinxiao offend you in some way?" Bei Yunj suddenly raised her eyebrows with interest. "What did she tell you?" Old Master Bo immediately understood that there must be a reason behind this. His face darkened. Guangxiao, are you still not going to tell the truth? Bo Jinxiao immediately knelt down and looked at old Master Bo with a panicked expression. Grandpa Bo, I was careless. I accidentally scalded Miss Pei's dog. When everyone saw this, they all had different thoughts. Jinxiao, the Bo family has already done their best to raise you. And now, you have the ability to earn your own living. Old Master Bo's words made Bo Jinxiao's face turn pale. Was he chasing her out of the Bo family? Chapter 1356. Grandpa Bo, Jinxiao really didn't do it on purpose. Bo Jinxiao crawled toward old Master Bo like crazy, crying and shaking her head desperately as she grabbed his sleeve. Old Master Bo frowned, but his heart had softened. He softened his tone. Jinxiao, I believe you have the ability to support yourself. When you go out, I'll give you a house in the city center. The house that old Master Bo gave her was worth at least 50 million yuan. However, Bo Jinxiao was unwilling to give up. If she stayed in the Bo family, she could have gotten more. And all of this was because of Bei Yunj. With others around, Bo Jinxiao did not want to embarrass herself, so she left early. However, this meal still did not feel good. Nya Yu could not help but be afraid of Bei Yunj. Unexpectedly, Tang Boyang insisted on getting close to him and said with a smile, CEO Nya, you're really young and promising. Let me give you a toast. Nya Yu was speechless. This Tang Boyang would not stop until he was dead, right? Mr. Tang, if you have anything to say, you can say it directly. Nya Yu gave a fake smile. CEO Nya, you're joking. I just feel like I've known you for a long time and we can be friends despite our age difference. A glint flashed past Tang Boyang's eyes, but he had an idea in his heart. Even if he did not do anything, he could let this arrogant *tch of the Qin family offend Higgins's people. By then, she would not even know how she died. I heard that recently, the technology product line of Higgins' Yunqing department has collided with the Qin corporations a lot. Tang Boyang smiled calmly. Could it be that there's a collaboration? With that said, everyone on the scene fell silent. Higgins Corporation's scientific research product line had always been the company's trump card. How could they let others have a share of this pie? However, the Qin Corporation had collided with the same products one after another. Had Higgins's trade secrets been leaked, their scalps turned numb. The Qin family was so daring. Weren't they courting death? Even Yu Hanran could not help but worry for Bei Yunj this time. However, when Nya Yu looked at Bei Yunj, he saw Bei Yunj glancing at Tang Boyang coldly. Then, she sneered and stood up lazily. Before Bei Yunj left, she turned around and asked Yu Hanran, do you have a cigarette? I'm going out for a walk. The entire arena was silent. Was this eldest young miss of the Qin family a lunatic, or was she really stupid? Wasn't he taking Higgins too lightly? Tang Boyang also looked on coldly, the corners of his mouth curled up in a mocking smile. After Yu Hanran had an epiphany, it was as if he was facing a formidable enemy. Master Pei, don't harm me. If Wuxia knew that he was the one who gave him this ancestor's cigarette, he would be able to think about what color he should choose for his urn. Bei Yunj was just about to say something when she noticed that Mo was blinking her big, curious eyes, as if she would be led astray by her in the next moment. Hence, she could only turn around and leave. I'm going out to buy candy. However, while Bei Yunj was waiting for the elevator, she suddenly heard an impatient voice. I say, you old thing, why are you still so greedy when you're already half a foot into the ground? Hurry up and take your things and scram. CEO Nia won't see you. Bei Yunj had also heard the other person's voice in the physics department. It was Professor Sun Jiaping from the physics department. Professor Sun Jiaping was very respected in his early years, but in the past few years, he had held a lot of lectures and worked as a technical consultant for big companies. He was scoffed at by the academic circle and his own students, and was called the disgraceful scum of the academic circle. He actually had the nerve to stay at Yun University for such a blatant money grubber? Chapter 1357. She saw that Sun Jieping was wearing clothes that had been washed too many times. He looked thin, and his hunched back became even hunchier. Sun Jieping was not good at pleasing people. "Mr. Nye, please be magnanimous. Please give me a chance. Just let me give it to President Nye." Bai Yunj narrowed her eyes casually. The elevator was about to arrive. "Old man, I think you're tired of living. Get lost. You're a person who tarnished Yun University's reputation. How dare you work with Higgins?" The person who spoke was extremely arrogant. "I don't know where you got the news and how you got into Platinum Gold Royal Hotel. But I won't let my cousin talk to you. If you don't get lost, I'll beat you to death." "Mr. Nye," Sun Jieping saw that Nye Cheng was about to snatch his project book and tear it apart. His expression changed, and he immediately held it in his arms. "Old man, you're really courting death." Nye Cheng sneered and stretched out his leg to kick Sun Jieping. Sun Jieping was originally a researcher. Now that his hair was white, he was powerless to fight back, and his face was pale. At this moment, Bai Yunj looked down, and her eyes could not be seen clearly. But when the elevator door opened, she suddenly turned around. Nye Cheng was about to give Sun Jieping another hard punch, but Bai Yunj suddenly raised her leg and kicked him in the stomach. Her eyes were cold and ruthless. Nye Cheng howled in pain and fell back 1/2 meter. At this moment, he curled up in pain, and his face was instantly covered in sweat. Bai Yunj? Although Sun Jieping was a professor in Bai Yunj's department, he had little contact with Bai Yunj. He only heard that before Bai Yunj entered Yun University, she had gotten into countless fights and caused trouble. "You're a student of Yun University?" Nye Cheng's ribs were still hurting. He felt that the kick made him feel uncomfortable. He gritted his teeth. "Bitch! How dare you offend me? Believe it or not, even if you graduated from Yun University, no laboratory will dare to take you in." Bai Yunj glanced at Sun Jieping. "The rules of Higgins are that the projects submitted by the academicians of Country A must be reviewed by the higher-ups. Don't you know? Rules?" Nye Cheng said arrogantly, "In Yuncheng, I am Higgins's rule." What was an academician? Are there not many academicians who want to work with us? Bai Yunj sneered, "Nye, you can't even control this bunch of trash." Nye Yu was not Shang Yan and had little experience in management. B*TCH, I think you're courting death. Nye Cheng flew into a rage out of humiliation, while Sun Jieping subconsciously wanted to protect his student. Bai Yunj looked at Sun Jieping, who was standing in front of her. Her eyes flickered, but the next moment, she said to Nye Cheng, who was strangling Sun Jieping, "Let go." Nye Cheng sneered, but before he could mock him, the hand holding his arm dislocated it. He howled in pain. "Who are you? How dare you treat me like this? Aren't you afraid that my cousin will make trouble for you?" Bai Yunj stretched his muscles and walked up to him step by step. He said casually, "I'll deal with Nye Yu later." She raised her eyes and suddenly stepped on his abdomen, slowly grinding it. Nye Cheng trembled in pain. "As for you, I have to use you to teach those idiots at Higgins how not to be stupid." As soon as she finished speaking, Bai Yunj suddenly kicked him in the ribs. Nye Cheng's whole body hit the wall with a muffled sound. Nye Cheng's 2 assistants felt a chill on their backs. They didn't know what to do. But soon, they secretly ran to tell Nye Yu. Chapter 1358. Bai Yunj, stop it. Sun Jieping was dumbfounded. When he came back to his senses, he immediately wanted to stop Bai Yunj, who was grabbing Nye Cheng and punching him. She was really a newborn calf that was not afraid of a tiger. If President Nye found out about this, even the Qin family would not be able to protect Bai Yunj. "Professor Sun, we're not in school. Just turn a blind eye to this." Bai Yunj had just kicked Nye Cheng's abdomen with her knee and said leisurely. Sun Jieping did not dare to look at this scene. How did the Qin family and Director Lin raise their daughter to be so violent? "Professor Sun, save me, please save me." This girl is a lunatic. Nie Cheng, whose bones were hurting, had already lost his courage. He desperately crawled towards Sun Jiaping. However, Pei Yunj stepped on him and said with a gentle smile, "Let's play a game. If you say one more word, I'll break one of your bones." As soon as she finished speaking, the crisp sound of bones breaking was heard. What followed was Nie Cheng's screams. "Bei Yunj!" Bei Yunj heard Tang Boyang's exasperated voice again. She turned her head and saw Tang Boyang, Niayu, and the others appear. "Cousin, save me." Nie Cheng, who was on the verge of death, suddenly said agitatedly. "What are you waiting for? Hurry up and carry Mr. Nie to the hospital." Tang Boyang ordered the others. At this moment, Bei Yunj also stopped. However, after the hotel's doctor hurriedly checked Nie Cheng's injuries and sent him to the hospital, he heard Tang Boyang's cold laughter that was trembling with anger. "You're really something. In just one night, you threw one person into the pool and almost drowned, and you beat the other person until his bones were fractured and sent to the hospital. Bei Yunj, do you really think that you can do whatever you want just because Shidu is protecting you?" Tang Boyang wanted Bei Yunj to offend Tang Boyang, but he did not want to drag him down at this juncture. He was the one who brought Bei Yunj here. What would Niayu think if she hurt her? Bei Yunj didn't even look at him. He just asked lightly, according to Higgins's rule, the projects of the academicians of the Academy of Engineering of Country A should be reviewed by the higher-ups. "Niayu, have you forgotten?" Niayu's expression was ugly. When he saw Sun Jiaping, who seemed to have been beaten up, he moved his lips but was unable to say anything. Just now, the assistants had exaggerated the story, but when he saw the injuries on Sun Jiaping's body, he knew the truth. Tang Boyang's eyes widened. He never thought that Bei Yunj would dare to teach Niayu a lesson. Even Yu Hanran couldn't help but silently send a message to Hushidu. This ancestor really knew how to cause trouble. If Hushidu still did not come, Bei Yunj might be beaten to death by Niayu, but in the next moment, Niayu walked up to Sun Jiaping and bowed solemnly. "Professor Sun, it's my fault for not teaching my subordinates well. I've embarrassed Higgins." Everyone was in disbelief. What's going on? Isn't Boss Nie going to stand up for his brother? Why did he listen to Bei Yunj and even take the initiative to apologize? It's fine, it's fine. Boss Nie, I've finally met you. I'm here this time to show you my project book. Before Sun Jiaping could hand the project book to Niayu saw the message Bei Yunj had sent him. His face turned pale. "I'll give Shang Yan face this matter. Go back to Neely and follow him. I'll find someone else to manage Yun City." He knew very well that based on Bei Yunj's temper, if it weren't for Shang Yan, Bei Yunj would have cleaned up the sect long ago. Chapter 1359. Niayu forced a smile. "Professor Sun, the company's project should leave it to someone else." Before he could finish his sentence, Bei Yunj said slowly, "Mr. Nie, Professor Sun is here for you." Hearing this, Niayu froze and slowly took the project book from Sun Jiaping. "Thank you for your hard work." Sun Jiaping couldn't help but feel excited. "Thank you for giving me this opportunity." Everyone else's eyes widened. Bei Yunj had sent Niayu's brother to the hospital. Wasn't Niayu going to pursue the matter? This was a slap to his face. "You're welcome." Niayu smiled weakly and glanced at the girl beside him. Sun Jiaping shouldn't be thanking him. At this moment, Tang Boyang's expression also became complicated. He began to look at Bei Yunj seriously. It was obvious that Niayu was afraid of Bei Yunj. But how could the head of Higgins Group be afraid of a daughter of the Qin family? In the supermarket, Bei Yunj was just about to buy something when Sun Jiaping pulled her back. She saw Sun Jiaping walking in front of her with a can of milk, a bottle of water, some bread, biscuits, and sugar. "Miss, the bill." After Sun Jiaping finished speaking, he took out the most common small plastic bag from his faded trouser pocket. There were some coins and paper money inside. Bei Yunj's eyes flickered. Professor, let me pay. I'm your teacher. How can you let your student pay? After Sun Jiaping finished speaking, he opened his money bag and took out a $20 bill. He counted some change and gave it to the salesperson. After thanking the salesperson, he handed the milk and bread to Biyao. He even smiled and said, "My granddaughter said this milk is delicious. She gets angry if I don't buy it for her. You kids will definitely like it." Biyao hid the darkness in her eyes and took the snacks from Sun Jiaping. "Thank you, Professor. Aren't you going to save some for your granddaughter?" Sun Jiaping paused. Her. A smile appeared on his face, but his voice was hoarse and sour. "She's sick. She can't eat these." Biyao did not say anything. As she drank the strawberry-flavored milk quietly, she felt Sun Jiaping quickly wipe away his tears. She pretended that nothing had happened and began to persuade Biyao to study hard. "Professor, how much more do you need to pay for your granddaughter's medical bills?" Biyao asked after a moment of silence. Sun Jiaping obviously didn't expect Biyao to ask such a question, but he still patted her on the shoulder and said, "It's okay, don't worry. It's just that we still need some medical fees for the operation. As long as this project wins the bid, I can give Jianghu the best medical resources." He smiled again and said, "After this surgery, if there's a chance, you can also meet each other." "There will be a chance." Biyao smiled. "That girl is smart, but she's not likable." Although he said this, Biyao could still see the love and affection in Sun Jiaping's eyes. After chatting for a while, Sun Jiaping insisted that Biyao not send him to the bus stop. Biyao watched him from afar as he covered the wound on his arm and disappeared into the distance. Niayu's voice sounded in her ears again. "Boss, I'm sorry." Biyao didn't even look at him. She just took the project book from him. She said casually, "Inform everyone that there will be a high-level meeting at Higgins tomorrow. Those who can't come don't have to come anymore." Chapter 1360. Hearing this, Niayu felt a chill run down his spine. He knew that Higgins' group was going to be reshuffled, yes. Biyao suddenly asked, "What kind of free and rich positions are there in the group?" "Suitable for scientific researchers." Niayu quickly realized who Biyao was talking about. "Technical consultant?" "But, boss, our scientific researchers and technicians should be treated the best in the country. As long as they entered Higgins' group, they would not be short of money. Otherwise, why would there be so many people racking their brains to squeeze in? After all, even the interns in the technical department at Higgins' group had an annual salary of 3 million, got it?" Biyao took the project book back and received a message from Xian Yuan of CI7 at night. "Xian Yuan, Sun Jiaping's information is here. However, there is a problem with his information. It involves the changes in the scientific research circle 20 years ago. Take a look. Attachment, Max, okay, thank you." Biyao sat in front of the computer and opened the attachment sent by Xian Yuan. It recorded Sun Jiaping's personal experience and commendations in detail. Sun Jiaping's resume was similar to that of the other professors at Yun University. He had excellent grades since he was young and graduated with a doctorate at the age of 26. He majored in nuclear engineering and nuclear technology and had a double degree in physics. However, one thing that Biyao did not expect was that Sun Jiaping's granddaughter, Jianghu, was not his biological granddaughter, but the daughter of Sun Jiaping's student, Jianghu. 20 years ago, Sun Jiaping took his student, Jianghu, to an island academic conference. A year later, he returned to Yuncheng but was inexplicably suppressed by the big shots in the circle. He could only take Jianghu to the most dangerous nuclear technology laboratory in the country at that time. However, in an experiment explosion, Jianghu died in order to save Sun Jiaping. Since then, Sun Jiaping had to raise his student, Jianghu's single daughter. Island Academic Conference. Biyao frowned and continued to scroll down. She saw the only remaining information about the unprecedented Island Academic Conference that had gathered 30 top researchers in the industry 20 years ago. One of the names also came into Bei Yunja's eyes, J.H. Bei Yunja's eyes flickered. She didn't expect that this researcher, who was almost unheard of in the country, would actually attend that academic conference. However, there were very few records about that academic conference. Even CI7 only hastily wrote that the experimental research of that academic conference had led to the deaths of thousands of people on the island, and that J.H. had committed suicide to escape punishment. This was a bombshell 20 years ago, but CI7 had always held that J.H. committed suicide to escape punishment. However, the past was the past. More than half of the 30 researchers from 20 years ago had fallen. Now, only 6 of them were alive, and 2 were missing. They tacitly kept their mouths shut about this matter. Bei Yunja's eyes flashed with a dark light, but he had a feeling that Sun Jiaping might know a shocking secret from 20 years ago. She also didn't think that Senior J.H. had committed suicide to escape punishment. This was because in the manuscript she had obtained from Laboratory 191, J.H.'s experimental manuscript was completely different from the research direction of the island experiment 20 years ago. Another bunch of scum. Bei Yunj sneered, but there was no warmth in her eyes. Master Du, your lady is pretty good. She has already found out about the island academic conference. Suyu brought 2 wine glasses over, poured some red wine, and handed them to Hushidu. The man's hand that was holding the fountain pen paused. Why is she investigating this? Chapter 1361. Today, your girl met Sun Jiaping at Platinum Gold Royal Hotel and checked Sun Jiaping's information. Sun Jiaping is the only researcher who walked out of the island clean 20 years ago. Sun Jiaping brought his own students and objected to those people's research experiments. He was unwilling to be associated with them, which was why he ended up being isolated. As for the others, whose hands had not been stained with the blood of others. Seeing that Hushidu did not speak, Suyu continued, she doesn't know the truth of what happened back then. Based on the information from CI7, I'm afraid she will misunderstand you, she won't. The man interrupted him calmly. Suyu was speechless. He had long heard that Hushidu had fallen for a young girl this time, but he did not expect it to be to this extent. In order to investigate what happened back then, Hushidu had once taken over CI7 with him. However, too many people had died 20 years ago, and those who really knew the truth were afraid of getting into trouble. Therefore, it was extremely difficult to investigate this matter. Therefore, after Hushidu handed over CI7 to him, he had completely removed himself from it. Even Xian Yuan only knew that the real Yuxiu in charge of CI7 was Suyu. However, he did not expect that the Yuxiu back then was actually 2 different people. One was Suyu, and the other was Hushidu. Therefore, Hushidu knew Bei Yunja's identity in the bureau from the beginning. Are you sure? She's very interested in this information and is already preparing to continue investigating. Suyu took a deep breath and asked patiently. She has the real experimental manuscript in her hands. Hushidu's words made Suyu look up abruptly. What? I didn't give it to her. My Yinyun happened to get it. The man leaned back casually, but the corners of his lips curled up slightly. Suyu was speechless. Did they have to watch people show off their affection for each other when they were here for official business? The next day, the higher-ups of Higgins Cloud City had different thoughts. After all, this was the first time they were meeting the big boss. Everyone was uneasy. Of course, there were also those who were reckless. Where's Lu Shixuan? Niayu asked. Everyone looked at each other and did not dare to make a sound. After a long time, the head of the administrative department said softly, I called to urge him. He's still on the way, just because he had made a few contributions in the Cloud City division, he was more arrogant than the boss. However, Lu Shixuan had been unwilling to accept Niayu as the person in charge for a long time. After all, Niayu was only Shang Yan's secretary back then, and he was Shang Yan's senior back then. What right did Niayu have to climb above him? Lu Shixuan was certain that this boss, who had never shown himself, would not do anything to him. After all, he was the backbone of the company. Not long after, When everyone arrived, they saw a beautiful girl walk in. His aura was impossible to ignore, but he was so young that it made people doubt their lives. Was he 20 years old? Many senior executives in their 40s and 50s no longer took Biyao seriously. Is everyone here? Biyao naturally sat at the head of the table and placed his laptop on the table. His words were light, but they inexplicably made people feel pressured. Director Dong. Biyao gestured for her to report. The Minister of Administration immediately sat up straight and said, "Of the 17 executives, only Lu Shixuan hasn't arrived yet." He said, "He's stuck in traffic." After saying this, the atmosphere at the scene was so tense that even a pin drop could be heard. They inexplicably felt that the big boss was scary. Suddenly, Biyao snorted unknowingly and started to operate the keyboard carelessly. Everyone had different thoughts and did not know what the boss wanted to do. Chapter 1362. Alright, let's start the meeting. Biyao's slender and good-looking fingers played with the black gold magnetic card in her hand. This was the symbol of the person in charge of Higgins Group. As long as Biyao swiped this card in the industrial area under Higgins, the higher-ups in the area would receive the news of their boss's arrival and come out to welcome her. However, when everyone heard this, they looked at each other and doubts arose in their hearts. Did the boss just pass by like that? She didn't intend to pursue Lu Shixuan? Could it be that this rumored boss was just a paper tiger? After all, Biyao was still around and no one dared to express their thoughts. However, they felt that the boss was indeed too inexperienced to even touch Lu Shixuan. If it weren't for Shang Yan, Higgins Group would have been finished in the hands of this boss. Everyone increasingly felt that this boss was just a pampered young lady. How could she have the ability to manage a group? However, at this time, Lu Shixuan, who was late downstairs, was still greeting people. "Xiao Qian, I heard from Boss Huang that you can drink quite a lot last time. Let's go for a drink after work." Xiao Qian said flatteringly, "Sure, as long as Boss Lu has time." But Boss Nia and the others are in a meeting. Why are you still here? Sai, isn't there a traffic jam? Lu Shixuan smiled, but his face could not hide his pride. He did not think that the boss, who had never shown up, could do anything to him. If she really had some ability, why would she leave the company's affairs to Shang Yan? Lu Shixuan sneered, but when he was in front of the gate on the first floor and prepared for facial recognition, unexpectedly, not only was the identification system unable to detect his identity, but it even sounded a mechanical female voice. "There is no information about your identity in the system at the moment. Please leave quickly." Lu Shixuan's expression changed. He did not believe it and checked a few more times. However, at this time, the gates suddenly emitted an alarm red ray and called the security guard. After the security guard hurried over and saw Lu Shixuan, who was blocked outside the gate, his eyes widened. "Boss Lu? Why are you blocked outside? Cut the crap and let me in. What kind of broken machine is this? Why is it blocking me outside?" Lu Shixuan was furious and began to curse on the spot. But just as the security guard was about to let them in, he suddenly remembered Higgins' strict rules. The security guard asked timidly, "Director Lu, do you want to try again? Higgins has a rule that he can't just let anyone go. Did you eat a bear's heart or a leopard's guts? You're just a little security guard, how dare you stop me outside?" Lu Shixuan instantly flipped out, but the security guard refused to let him in, so Lu Shixuan could only call someone. In the high-level meeting, suddenly, someone's phone vibrated. Minister Dong gulped. "Boss, it's a call from President Lu." "Yes, put it on speaker." Biyao signaled for the higher-ups to stop the presentation. At this time, everyone quietly heard Lu Shixuan's roar. "Dong Qi, hurry up and ask that useless security guard downstairs to let me in. This broken machine can't even detect my identity." Minister Dong's expression changed slightly. He subconsciously looked at Biyao, who was sitting at the head of the table. "Very good. Looks like there's still someone with a brain in the company." Biyao's red lips curled up and she leaned back casually. However, everyone else's scalps suddenly went numb. So just now, the boss had deleted Lu Shishuan's information from the computer? Only Miayu reacted quickly. Bei Yunj did not know how to enter the company's system. Chapter 1363. Director Dong, get someone to throw out all his things. The rest of you, continue reporting. After Bei Yunj finished speaking, she put a tick on the name list in her hand. At this moment, the rest of the people saw that Bei Yunj still had a list in her hand and felt a chill down their spines. She wasn't here to play? Yes. Director Dong took a deep breath and was glad that she didn't act recklessly like Lu Shishuan. Then, she immediately went downstairs to deal with Lu Shishuan. Downstairs. Dong Qi, what are you doing? Are you rebelling? Lu Shishuan saw the two people behind Dong Qi carrying two big boxes of things from his office and couldn't help but widen his eyes in disbelief. President Lu, you should be happy that the boss gave you a break. Director Dong's beautiful nails brushed her hair away from her shoulders. Her words were watertight and she was a living example of a smiling tiger. You! How dare you! Did Miayu say this? Lu Shishuan asked with a dark expression. Lu Shishuan, you even dared to patronize the boss's meeting. You're not a hero who started the dynasty and yet you're putting on airs. Who can tolerate you? Director Dong pointed casually. Throw out all the things. After that, Director Dong straightened her back and walked upstairs in her high heels. Lu Shishuan, who was shouting behind her, couldn't wait to strangle that little B**tch Dong Qi to death. Director Dong returned to the meeting room valiantly and proudly. She couldn't say that she was comfortable. Lu Shishuan, that old pervert, couldn't wait to stick his eyes on her body every day and even touched her. If Miayu wasn't afraid of him, she wouldn't have swallowed her anger. Director Dong returned in a good mood, but then she heard the big boss speak. Qi Ming, Liang Linfeng, Du Hunan. These 8 senior directors can go back and rest first. Bei Yunj pointed at the 8 senior directors. The 8 of them looked at each other and then one of them bravely said, Boss, we've all signed the contract. Isn't it unreasonable for you to fire us for no reason? That's right. Miss, you're still a young lady. Do you really think we're nothing? Another person sneered. Then, the rest of the senior directors who had been named couldn't help but laugh. However, Bei Yunj casually tossed the things on the table and twirled the fountain pen. She chuckled softly and asked casually, as a dish? Who do you think you are? You. The other people's faces flushed red. They were so humiliated that they couldn't speak. However, just as someone was about to speak, Bei Yunj's cold voice rang out unhurriedly. Since you don't want to leave the company, why don't the 8 senior executives explain to me the company's annual figures for the first half of the year? Hearing this, the expressions of the 8 people changed. Then, they heard Bei Yunj recite the wrong project data one after another. She glanced at them with a cold gaze that was not a smile, embezzling public funds and signing up for 2 experimental projects with fake data. Are you looking for death? Finished speaking. Bei Yunj threw all the information in his hands onto the pale faces of the senior officials. In an instant, the conference table was filled with papers. However, all the high-level officials present were so frightened by Bei Yunj that they trembled. There was only one thought in their minds: the boss was too scary. Boss. Their backs were soaked with sweat. They suddenly realized that this person who had never shown up was the real boss. Bei Yunj said casually, I'll give you 3 days to either solve the problem or solve yourselves. Chapter 1364. The others felt a chill run up their spines from the soles of their feet to the top of their heads. The chill soaked their entire bodies, and their foreheads were covered in sweat. Bei Yunj meant that if they couldn't give her an explanation, she would send them to the police station and jail them for life. Boss, I don't know what's going on either. Someone wanted to play dumb. However, some people knew that they couldn't hide it any longer and immediately begged for mercy. Boss, I was just confused. That's right. Boss, please let us go. We will definitely turn over a new leaf and work for you. The higher-ups were so anxious that they almost kowtowed to her and admitted their mistakes. However, Bai Yunj had always been merciless. Niayu. Bai Yunj didn't even look up as she let Niayu deal with them. After the noisy begging for mercy gradually faded away, the remaining higher-ups felt their hair stand on end when they saw Bai Yunj's calm but overly beautiful face. They didn't know how Bai Yunj found out that there was a problem with the data, including the 2 fake data projects. Even the insiders probably didn't know about the information reported just now, right? How did Bai Yunj see through it at a glance? It was all wrong. If Niayu had half of this person's skills, he wouldn't have let these people ride on his head. Bai Yunj was halfway through processing when she suddenly received a message from Shang Yan. She opened it and took a look. Niayu's ability is limited. I'm sorry to have caused you a lot of trouble. I heard that Mr. Xue Jiangxian is working in the Yun City department of the corporation. Xue Jiangxian might be a good candidate for you, but I heard that he's preparing to leave. You can ask him about the situation. Bai Yunj's eyes flashed. She put her phone on the table and her gaze landed on one of the older men. Why does old Xue want to leave? Bai Yunj asked. Xue Jiangxian probably didn't expect to attract this person's attention. After a while, he smiled and said, I'm old. I'm afraid I can't help much. He changed the topic and said, but if you need me, I'm willing to do my best for you. Xue Jiangxian had interviewed Higgins because of Higgins's resurgence of fame. How could he have known that the moment he started working, the company would be filled with monsters? Therefore, Xue Jiangxian became increasingly disappointed and decided to resign. However, unexpectedly, at this moment, Bai Yunj suddenly appeared and dealt with these rotten bugs in the company with a single meeting. This made Xue Jiangxian suddenly want to stay. Old Xue, I do need you. Bai Yunj's eyes curved and she said bluntly. Xue Jiangxian had left a deep impression on her during the meeting just now. Compared to the others, Xue Jiangxian had a lot of experience. He looked at the project from many angles and was strict. Xue Jiangxian was so excited that he stood up and bowed to Bai Yunj. Young miss, I'm willing to die 1,000 times. All right everyone, it's a pleasure to meet all of you. From today onwards, Elder Xue will temporarily be in charge of the company. Before Niayu returns to Nili, remember to hand over the work to Elder Xue. Niayu quickly replied, yes. The others had no choice but to put on a fake smile. We are also very happy. Yes, we are too happy, Bai Yunj glanced at the few of them who were acting clumsily and raised her eyebrows lazily. Is that so? How touching. Then we'll see it more often in the future. Everyone's smiles froze. The boss's suffocating sense of humor, in the president's office. Young miss, this is Sun Jiping's contract. Niayu handed it to her. Chapter 1365. Bai Yunj glanced at him. Okay. Niayu couldn't help but ask, Miss, aren't you going to use Professor Sun Jiping's experimental project? Bai Yunj only glanced at him, making Niayu feel inexplicably guilty. It's not suitable. It was not that Sun Jiping's project was not good, but that Higgins was an internationally renowned technology group. His opponents were all top researchers from all over the world. If it were any other professor from Yun University, it would probably be difficult for them to stand out. Xue Jiangxian also glanced at Bai Yunj. At this moment, he also understood why Higgins could return to glory in her hands. Although the person in front of him was young, she had a deep heart. After leaving the company, Bai Yunj went downstairs and sent a message to Huashidu. She could even see Xue Jiangxian getting someone to deal with Lu Xishuan, who was causing trouble. Bai Yunj watched with interest, but after a while, a car stopped in front of her. What are you looking at? Hearing the man's clear voice, Bai Yunj immediately got into the car and answered casually. Watching the show. Hearing this, Huashidu and Tsingsu, who was in front, looked out and saw a group of people fighting outside. Tsingsu, Miss Pei's hobby was still as fresh and unique as ever. Huashidu looked at Bei Yunj excitedly leaning against the window. His eyes darkened as he remembered old Madame Hua's deliberate warning a few days ago. The Qin family's development had been booming over the past few years, and there were many people who wanted a business marriage. When Bei Yunj first entered Yun University, she was already famous in the industry. It was said that the juniors of the Bai family and the Bo family had been brought back from the top overseas schools. They wanted to get along with Bei Yunj and get close to her. The man slowly retracted his gaze and suddenly said lazily, "Is it nice?" "Yes." "Are you going to Jianghu later, or do you want to try the newly opened Black Silver Tower restaurant in the south of the city?" "Jianghu." "Do you want to go back to school after dinner, or do you want to go home?" "I want to go back." Bei Yunj came back to her senses and paused. She looked through the car window and saw the man's elegant side profile. Bei Yunj's eyelids twitched. She hurriedly glanced at the man who had a lazy posture but could make her heart race. It was as if she was afraid of being bewitched. At this moment, the people who used to be so bold that they could overturn the heavens were now inexplicably afraid. It was as if he was afraid that he would enter the wolf's den and be eaten alive. "Brat!" the man suddenly shouted. His slender and well-defined hand gently held her again, and he even pinched her intentionally. He looked at her casually with his peach blossom eyes. "Why are you so far away from your brother?" Bei Yunj had never been able to resist this kind of seduction behind people's backs. Not long after, Bei Yunj moved to Huashidu's side. Then, a low and hoarse chuckle sounded in her ears. Bei Yunj looked up and their eyes met. The man's eyes were filled with a clear smile. His gaze was so direct that she couldn't take it anymore. However, when Bei Yunj turned her head away unnaturally, he slowly reached out and touched her head. The warmth of his palm brushed past her soft ears. Huashidu didn't give Bei Yunj any face, but he smiled seductively. "Yun, be brave. Didn't you look at me as if you wanted to eat me up in the past? Are you afraid now?" Not only was the man blowing air into her ear, he was also saying indecent words, but he could easily make her body go soft. Chapter 1366. Bei Yunj's ears, which had been touched intentionally or unintentionally, gradually heated up. Was it that obvious? After getting out of the car, Huashidu brought him to the dining room and did not mention what had happened just now. During this dinner, Bei Yunj was distracted and her mind was filled with images that she should not be thinking about. Bei Yunj was speechless. It was not that she was thinking too much, but Huashidu exuded a flirtatious aura from head to toe. "It's still early before the school curfew. Where are you going to play?" Huashidu suddenly spoke, making Bei Yunj relax unconsciously. However, the way she looked at the man was complicated, as if her thoughts had been guessed correctly. She seemed to be holding her breath and her emotions were indescribable. She felt like cursing. However, the man smirked. He clearly knew the little girl's personality, but at this moment, he pretended not to know the desire to win burning in Bei Yunj's heart. This move of retreating in order to advance indeed made Bei Yunj restless. He picked up Bei Yunj's favorite dishes and said casually, "It's okay. I didn't expect you to be like an adult." Bei Yunj was speechless. She was humiliated. This meal didn't taste good. However, after going downstairs, Bei Yunj had a lot of fun since the man was finally human. She was thinking about when to move over. But sometimes, the development of things was always unexpected. Qin, who had just finished filming a promotional video, was wearing a mask and a hat. He walked in front impatiently with his long legs. The manager behind him was very tired from chasing after him. "Brother Yu, there's no need to walk so fast, right? What else can I do? Listen to your nonsense?" Qin glanced at him. Although he was dressed tightly, his perfect figure with wide shoulders and narrow waist was still very attractive on the road. The manager was speechless. Why didn't this person understand advice? He was just reminding Qin out of kindness. He said that his brother might have special thoughts about his biological sister, but Qin Yu started to show a cold expression the moment he heard that. The manager endured it. Brother Yu, don't you think that your brother is too concerned about your sister? Besides, Qin Yu's sister's appearance could completely beat all the popular actresses in the industry. What was Qin Yu thinking? Why did he think that his brother was a saint? Qin Yu sneered. His slender and good-looking fingers hooked the mask off, revealing his arrogant and handsome face. My brother is concerned about me. Do you understand? Besides, Shidu hasn't blossomed in 800 years. What else can he produce? Before Qin Yu could finish speaking, he suddenly saw two people walking out of the mall opposite. They looked very familiar. It was his biological sister and brother whom he missed dearly. Before Qin Yu could go up and greet her, he saw Bei Yunj holding a teddy bear that she had grabbed from the claw machine. Her eyes seemed to be shining brightly and she was exceptionally intimate with the man beside her. The night breeze blew by and she turned her body sideways. The man was standing behind her with his elegant eyes lowered, but his hands were patiently braiding the girl's hair. The scene was very pleasing to the eye. However, Qin Yu held his breath and felt that something was wrong. Until the next moment. He saw Bei Yunj hooking her arm around the man's shoulder from behind, with a hint of coquettishness that was obviously tormenting him. However, the man only turned around and scratched the girl's chin as if to comfort her. Then, he opened the car door for Bei Yunj with a smile. At this moment, Qin Yu was almost certain. His brother was a dog. After holding it in for a long time, Qin Yu could only say slowly. F***ck, he had been deceived. Chapter 1367. At this moment. The moment Qin Yu closed his eyes, Shidu's beastly actions back then appeared crazily in his mind. He had hinted at him to be careful of Gu Er's puppy love. Intentionally or unintentionally, he had encouraged him to tell the old master not to let Bei Yunj get too close to the young talents in the industry. He had even King told him that Yu Hanran had ulterior motives towards his sister. In the end, he had been very careful with outsiders, but he had never thought that the iron tree that had not bloomed for 10,000 years would steal his little cabbage. At the thought of his stupid actions, Qin Yu's blood was in a mess and his throat was stuffy. Back then, he had even begged Shidu to take care of his Gu Er and send her to his house. But what about this inhumane beast? Gu had just entered university and these two were already so clingy. As a man, he didn't believe that they hadn't been plotting for a long time. Be brother Yu? Seeing that Qin Yu was so angry that he was about to vomit blood, the manager changed from gloating to uneasy. Suddenly, Qin Yu said coldly, I'm going to kill this B*****. The manager was speechless. The brothers in the past had turned against each other. This was truly a drama of life. The manager tugged at Qin Yu, telling him to calm down. After all, even if they couldn't be brothers, they could still be brothers-in-law. However, this sentence completely ignited Qin Yu's anger. He was just short of rushing home to get a knife. After Bei Yunj returned to school, she lay on the bed in the dormitory for a while before coming down to drink some water. She sat on the chair and suddenly said, Su Xianing, I'm going out to stay this weekend. Su Xianing was wearing a mask and watching the news broadcast. She was shocked by her words. Why, you're going out to stay too? There were many people who moved out of Yun University, but it was surprising that the other party was Bei Yunj. Su Xianing regained her senses. But there's an exchange meeting this weekend. I heard that it's a big shot in the industry from Continent K, I'm not free. Bei Yunj looked casual and indifferent as she played with her phone. However, she was actually thinking about whether she should give her brother a surprise when she moved out. Alright, I heard that Wang Guanchen's sister is coming too. The last time you went to the computer science class, you made him lose so much face. It's better to hide. Su Xianing had never interacted with Wang Guanchen, but she had heard that this person was very vengeful in the computer science department. Who knew when he would come to cause trouble for Bei Yunj? Bei Yunj's eyelids twitched. After a while, she said, Yes. However, even if Bei Yunj didn't look for trouble trouble would come knocking on her door. In the lecture hall. As soon as Bei Yunj arrived, she heard the discussions around her and was quickly pulled aside by Su Xianing. Wang Guanchen is here. Don't go against him today. I heard that even the principal is nice to him. It seems to be because of his sister. Su Xianing secretly scolded Wang Guanchen for being so pretentious. He actually dared to come to their department for class. Yes. Bei Yunj's indifferent compliance made Su Xianing feel relieved. She did not want Bei Yunj to be expelled from school because she had offended Wang Guanchen. After all, Wang Guanchen had a backer. Nothing would happen to him. However, just as Bei Yunj was about to walk to the back seat, Wang Guanchen stretched out one leg and stopped her. Bei Yunj, from now on I'm your classmate. Aren't you going to say hello to me? He deliberately provoked Bei Yunj. However, Su Xianing's face darkened. Zhou Guanchen, are you here for class? Bitch, what does this have to do with you? Mind your own business. Wang Guanchen sneered. Chapter 1368. Suddenly, Bei Yunj glanced at the foot in front of her. You don't want your leg anymore? As soon as she finished speaking, Wang Guanchen felt an inexplicable chill and subconsciously shrank back. He flew into a rage out of humiliation. Bei Yunj, you, but soon. The bell rang and Bei Yunj went to the back row. This class was taught by Sun Jiaping. Sun Jiaping taught seriously. Even if the students had all kinds of tricky and strange questions, he could still answer them. As for those students who looked down on him, although they were not convinced, they could only suppress their anger. After class, Sun Jiaping, who was sitting at the podium drinking tea and reading, suddenly received a call and immediately went outside. Everyone saw that Sun Jiaping was agitated and began to talk about it. Could it be that he's calling some boss again? I'm convinced. Why does he love money so much? The students were annoyed. They also didn't understand why Yun University allowed such a professor to teach. Otherwise? Is Sun Yitzai's reputation for nothing? Someone mocked. At the same time, Sun Jiaping, who was outside, looked disappointed and said in a stiff tone, Is that so? It's a pity that I can't cooperate with your company. He originally wanted to rely on this money to save Jingjing. Actually, our company has drafted a contract. We hope that Professor Sun can be our company's technical consultant. I wonder if you're willing? Xue Jiangxian asked with a smile. Really, really? Sun Jiaping's eyes lit up again and he said incoherently, I'm willing. The male student who came back to get water immediately ran back to the classroom when he heard Sun Jiaping's words. Hey, did you know? Sun Yitzai has accepted the technical consultant position of a lousy company. The boy laughed and said, Guanchen, I heard that your family is very rich. Why don't you help Professor Sun? Maybe if he gets excited, you can get full marks even if you don't come to class in the future. How can it be so easy to be my family's dog? Wang Guanchen sneered, his tone full of sarcasm and arrogance. This made many male students who were happy to be friends with Wang Guanchen burst into laughter, as if they could trample on a professor that they couldn't reach. Is that enough? How much money Professor Sun wants to earn is his business. One of the girls frowned. Following that, a girl also chimed in, that's right. Why should a researcher be poor? It's just to prove that he's honest and studious. However, upon hearing this, some of the boys became angry out of humiliation. They insulted her without thinking. Huang Minmin, don't tell me you're interested in such an old man. After saying this caused the other boys to laugh at him. The girls' faces turned red, but before they could say anything, they suddenly heard a shocking sound. It was the sound of the back of a book being slammed on the table. Then, before the boy could scold her, he heard a familiar and impatient voice. Are you done yet? In an instant. When the boys sensed the coldness emanating from Bei Yunj, they all shut their mouths. Even Wang Guanchen did not expect the boys from the physics department to be so afraid of Bei Yunj. Bei Yunj flipped through the book slowly and glanced at those people casually. He sneered, "I don't think anyone else wants to be a dog." The other boys were so humiliated that their faces turned red, but they also knew that they could not afford to offend Bei Yunj. After the class, Wang Guanchen glanced coldly at these people who were trying to curry favor with him. Bei Yunj is so scary. Chapter 1369. The others remained silent. Bei Yunj had been promoted from Hengda, and many students from Yun University had been promoted from Hengda as well. Even the sophomores and juniors knew that Bei Yunj High School had sent someone to the hospital. They even prayed crazily on the eve of the college entrance examination that this big Buddha could go to Beichuan University and not come to a small temple like Yun University. So, who the hell wasn't afraid of Bei Yunj? What's the use of having you? A bunch of useless people. Wang Guanchen gritted his teeth at the thought of how people were flattering him in class, but Bei Yunj's words scared this group of people out of their wits. Brother Chen, of course you're not afraid of Bei Yunj. Your family background is good and you came from Continent K. But we don't dare to offend her. The boy beside him explained. Yes, Bei Yunj is a lunatic. No one dares to provoke her. Besides, her grades are good. If anything happens to her, Yun University won't bear to expel her. Wang Guanchen laughed coldly. Can't bear to expel her? Idiots, just watch carefully. His sharp eyes swept over them, looking a little ferocious. When my sister, Wang Huiying, comes, as long as Bei Yunj offends her, even if my sister wants to expel Bei Yunj, Yun University won't even dare to fart. With that said, Wang Guanchen left, leaving the boys looking at each other. Wang Huiying? That famous genius from Continent K? Friday afternoon. After Bei Yunj sent a message to Huashidu, she carried her bag and went to the apartment Huashidu had prepared. After opening the door with her key, she found that the furniture inside was spotless, as if someone came to disturb her every day. Bei Yunj raised her eyebrows, as if she had thought of something. The smile on her lips gradually turned into an interested one. Then, she went into the bathroom to take a shower. Huashidu, who had just received the news that Bei Yunj was going to the apartment today, had already driven to the apartment. However, Huashidu did not expect Bei Yunj to already be upstairs. What was even more unexpected was, Qin Yu seemed to have arrived at the apartment before him. Qin Yu had no intention of hiding his identity at all. He was wearing a black t-shirt, short-sleeved shirt and trousers as he leaned against the wall and smoked. The English tattoo on his forearm was exposed and his eyes were noble and superior. His loose black hair half covered his emotions. Huashidu raised his pale-colored eyes and met Qin Yu's eyes. The man glanced at him without leaving a trace. He knew that there must be a demon behind Qin Yu's sudden arrival, but he was still calm. Looking for me? Qin Yu cut off the cigarette without saying anything and snorted coldly. Before anyone could react, he strode forward to Huashidu and punched the man in the face. Huashidu, are you King human? Huashidu was in the wrong and did not intend to fight back. However, Qin Yu's merciless strength made him turn his head away slightly pathetically. The man licked his cheek and sucked in a breath of cold air. He smelled the blood in his mouth and chuckled softly. He wiped the blood on his lips with his finger. You know, Qin Yu, you want a few more punches? I'll let you hit me as much as you want today, but don't hit my face. Huashidu said calmly. Qin Yu gave a fake smile. Why? Huashidu slowly took off his suit jacket and threw it to the stunned Sing Su. It's hard to explain if the little girl sees it. Qin Yu wanted to kill someone. *CK, at this moment. Bei Yunj, who had just taken a shower upstairs, was wearing a nightgown and sitting on Huashidu's table reading. She had no idea what was happening downstairs. Chapter 1370. Bei Yunj knew that Huashidu would be waiting for her in the study, so after flipping through the book, she took a bottle of nail polish and sat by the desk to apply it in boredom. This nail polish was not bought by Bei Yunj. It was snatched by Bei Yunj after Su Xianing poked holes in the potato chip bags on Bei Yunj's table one by one. Su Xianing was so angry that she gritted her teeth for a week. At the same time, the atmosphere downstairs did not ease either. When did you have such thoughts about my sister? Qin Yu took a deep breath. Huashidu narrowed his pale-colored pupils, his eyes dark and unreadable. He said carelessly, I'm not sure. Back then, Ji Yiqing had deliberately provoked him only to let him see his heart clearly. As for when he had feelings for Bei Yunj, even he himself was not sure. Hearing this, Qin Yu's urge to pull Huashidu into another fight grew stronger. Was there anyone more king beast than him? How could he abduct his brother's sister? Seeing that Qin Yu was so angry that he wanted to kill someone, the man was still noble and refined. The corners of his upturned eyes were inexplicably charming and his low and magnetic voice was a little frivolous. Brother, didn't you tell me before that you wanted to be my family? We've known each other for so many years. Would Yinyan be more at ease if she were to hand it over to an outsider than to me? This shameless person. Qin Yu smirked. President Hua, you also know that I've known you for so many years? Anyone who remembered their brotherhood would not fool around with his brother's sister behind his back. Who started it between you and Gu? Qin Yu asked again. Huashidu said calmly, me. Qin Yu could not help it. Huashidu, if you like a female student, who can you find? At this point, Qin Yu's scalp turned numb. He really could not imagine how Huashidu, who was cold and indifferent, would suddenly develop such a relationship with his Gu. At the thought that Huashidu might become his brother-in-law, Qin Yu shivered and immediately asked, when can the two of you break up? Huashidu slowly looked up, but there was no warmth in his eyes. There was an unfathomable coldness that made people afraid. A moment later, hearing him say slowly, Qin Yu, I'm sorry for not telling you in advance. I apologize to you. But I'm not that much of a beast, and I don't have the intention to play around. I understand that you can't accept it right now. The man's tone was gentle. But for the sake of our family in the future, it's better to endure it. Qin Yu, F***ck. How could Huashidu, who should be hacked into pieces, be so shameless? These few punches of yours, you really don't care about brotherhood. The man licked his numb cheeks and laughed, feeling that several parts of his body were throbbing with pain. However, Huashidu felt that it was quite good to be discovered by Qin Yu this time. It saved her the trouble of building Qin Yu's thoughts. From the moment you seduced my sister, our brotherhood ceased to exist. Qin Yu took out a cigarette from the cigarette box on the table. After a while, he suddenly remembered something. He slowly and stiffly turned to look at Huashidu. Did you and Gu, do it? Which one? Qin Yu was speechless. How many rooms do you sleep in tonight? After saying this, the atmosphere froze for a moment. After that, Huashidu asked with a faint smile, Qin Yu, she's only in her first year of university. Do you think I can do it? Chapter 1371. Qin Yu also heaved a sigh of relief, but said, then did you? The man suddenly interrupted him and continued slowly, you'll have one sooner or later. Qin Yu's face twisted uncontrollably. Listen, did this sound like something a human would say? After calming down. After Qin Yu finished smoking, he planned to go upstairs to the study with Huashidu to talk. After all, if Huashidu's face was really disfigured by him, Gu might still be angry with him. At this thought, Qin Yu's emotions became even more complicated. We've been brothers for so many years. I've really met the wrong person. Huashidu did not care what Qin Yu was mumbling behind him. However, when he casually opened the study door and saw the scene inside, he froze. Unknowingly, someone had suddenly appeared in the study. Bei Yunj was sitting lazily in his usual chair. Her nightgown was loose and revealing her shoulders, and one could vaguely see the black straps inside. A pair of fair and slender legs were resting lazily by the table, forming a strong contrast with the wine-red nail polish she had just applied, causing a strong fluctuation in his senses. The man's pale-colored eyes deepened, accumulating a layer of half-hidden gloom. After Bai Yunj heard the commotion, she turned around and met the man's eyes. However, with this turn of her head, the nightgown on her shoulders slid even wider. The man's eyes were dark as he tried his best to suppress the bad nature in the man's bones and the possessiveness that was surging within him. The little girl casually took a clean nightgown, but did not realize that this nightgown was too big for a man's usual wear. What? Why did he stop in front? Before Qin could ask, he was about to look up when Wuxia suddenly closed the door. At this moment, the door was tightly shut. Bai Yunj, who was about to stand up inside, was speechless. What was going on? Outside the door. Qin said in the awkward silence, "Are you guarding against me like a thief?" Haha. Didn't he know who the thief was? Wuxia restrained the darkness in his eyes and spoke carelessly, but his voice was unusually low and hoarse. "Do you want to pick some wine to bring back?" "Really?" Qin asked instinctively. The wine in the Hua family's wine cellar was priceless. One bottle could be exchanged for a suite in the center of Yun City. Qin regained his senses very quickly and chuckled. "Master Du, are you trying to bribe me with a few bottles of wine?" However, the man licked his lips and looked up at Qin with a smile. "I don't drink much. If you like it, I'll get Sing Su to move it over for you next time." Old Master Hua loved wine when he was alive, so the Hua family had collected a lot of good wine. After Old Master Hua passed away, Wuxia continued to work with the winery. At this moment, when Qin heard this, he could not help but be tempted. "Aren't you being too generous?" Qin tone softened a lot and he followed Wuxia downstairs silently. But not long after, Bai Yunj, who was in the study, suddenly recalled the scene from just now. She thought she saw a wound on the man's lips. Bai Yunja's eyes darkened. She quickly got up and went downstairs. Qin, who was talking, was halfway through when he suddenly heard a voice coming from the stairs. "I'm looking for you today. Don't tell me you and Wuxia, what happened to your face?" At this moment, the two men sitting on the sofa turned around and saw Bai Yunj walking over with cold eyes. "Jigu, Qin was stunned. "Why are you here?" Chapter 1372. However, there was indeed no need to discuss this topic too much. Looking at Bai Yunja's ill-fitting nightgown, the answer was already clear. Bai Yunj only pursed her red lips and walked past Qin, arriving in front of Wuxia. She reached out and touched the wound at the corner of the man's lips, her eyebrows still furrowed. However, the man grabbed her hand and kissed it comfortingly. "It's okay, Yun. "What's okay?" A cold laugh escaped Bai Yunja's throat. Before the man could react, Bai Yunj had already pulled the man over. Then, she unbuttoned the man's white shirt. There were bruises all over his body, making Bai Yunja's eyes turn cold. However, Wuxia looked like he was at the mercy of others from the beginning to the end. Qin had lived for so many years, but this was the first time he saw Wuxia indulging others like this. There was a helpless smile in his pale-colored eyes. However, it made one's heart itch. He suppressed his laughter, but it made her ears numb. Yun, he's still here." Bai Yunja's ears were sensitive to begin with, so she avoided him instinctively. But in the next moment, Qin, who was originally valiant, saw his cold sister turn around. "Why are you here?" His sister's tone was very calm, but it was not difficult to tell that if knew that he was the one who had injured Wuxia, he might lose this sibling relationship. "I came to see him." The man, who was usually unrestrained, said stiffly, not daring to look at his unfriendly gaze. Qin regretted it even more. He should have let live with him back then. This way, his sister would not have to feel sorry for a wild man and would not have to compete with the two at home for favor. "Then did you hit him?" Bai Yunja's questions were getting sharper and sharper. For some reason, Qin did not dare to admit it. When Wuxia received Qin pleading gaze, his thin eyelids moved. He looked at the little girl, who had not been appeased successfully, for a while and suddenly laughed. Yun, go and change your clothes first. This nightgown was indeed not suitable for them to chat like this. Pursing her lips, Pei Yun went upstairs with a cold aura emanating from her. Seeing this, Qin Yu heaved a sigh of relief and felt equally bitter. If his own sister wasn't close to him, he might as well treat her as an outsider. The man suddenly said, "You still want to stay here?" Qin Yu, why did he feel that this person was showing off to him? So what if I'm here? Qin Yu leaned against the sofa and pretended to be impressive. However, Huashidu sneered mysteriously. He lowered his head and buttoned his shirt casually. Okay, then when Yun comes down, I'll send you off together. Qin Yu almost jumped up immediately and walked towards the door without looking back. Huashidu, this matter is not over. Do you think it's so easy to enter our Qin family? Qin Yu was very angry. He accurately grasped the words of the vicious older brother in the primetime wealthy family drama. It was indeed not easy to enter the Qin family. Other than Qin Yu, there were many men in the Qin family. The most troublesome one was probably that President Qin Luyan. Initially, Huashidu wanted to interact with this President Qin in the business world, but Qin Luyan was obviously much more clear-headed than Qin Yu. He rejected all the collaborations with the Hua Corporation. He even reminded Huashidu repeatedly about his brotherhood with Qin Yu. Unfortunately, Huashidu indeed cherished this brotherhood very much. He even shamelessly used Qin Yu's trust to visit the old master of the Qin family often. Chapter 1373. After interacting with him for more than a year, old master Qin was already extremely satisfied with Huashidu. Soon, Bei Yunj changed her clothes and went downstairs, only to find that Qin Yu had already left. She walked in front of Huashidu and snorted. "You're quite protective of him." Seeing that the young lady was unhappy, Huashidu glanced at the medical kit in her hand. He chuckled unconsciously and took it. "I'm just afraid that it won't be easy to enter the Qin family in the future." Bei Yunj frowned even more when she heard this. Back then, she wanted to fulfill the original owner's wish and knew very well that the original owner could not let go of anything in this life. It was nothing more than the Qin family and her family. As a bystander, she had been reborn in the body of the original owner. From the beginning, she was actually unwilling to stay in the Qin family and help her 3 biological brothers. In her opinion, the original owner was too soft-hearted. However, not long after, she began to dream non-stop. She dreamed of the memories of the original owner yearning for kinship, as well as the days when her brothers had repented and shared weal and woe with the original owner. Bei Yunj seemed to be able to feel how happy the original owner was to have this kinship. Later, when the original owner found out that she had an incurable disease, she did not want to drag them down, so she told Qin Lang coldly that she did not want to be their sister anymore. Therefore, Bei Yunj also understood that the original owner only wanted to fulfill her wish, not take revenge. She had no right to help the original owner in the way she thought was right. However, today, Qin Yu had hit Huashidu for no reason, making Bei Yunj a little frustrated. She could only think of the original owner and her grandfather to suppress her anger. "Then you'll stand there and take the beating if he hits you?" Bei Yunj laughed in anger. She did not think that Huashidu had such a good temper. The man watched as Bei Yunj's expression changed from interesting, "How can I be angry over such a small matter," to "I'm King angry." He could not help but suppress the smile on his lips. He pulled her over and lowered his head to rest on the girl's neck, laughing hoarsely. Even his shallow breath sprayed on her sweater, heating her skin. Then, she heard the man's clear voice, which made her ears itch and heat up. "I did let him down. Isn't this? I feel guilty." Bei Yunj's entire body froze. She could feel the man's scorching body temperature, and she could also feel his beating heart. She was even angrier by the man's intimate and ambiguous actions. Bei Yunj was silent for a long time. There's no other way. She really did owe the original owner of this body. The man's cynical voice echoed in her ears, making her blush and her heart beat faster. "Why, do you still want to elope with your brother?" He continued, that won't do. Status is more important. Biyao couldn't push him away for fear of pulling on his wound. She was even more helpless against this dog of a man who was still dishonest even after being beaten. She could only expressionlessly wait for the D*MN man to finish taking advantage of her. Then, she half squatted and half knelt in front of him. She asked the man sitting on the sofa to take off his shirt and carefully applied the medicine on his lower abdomen. Biyao didn't notice anything wrong with this position. However, the man subconsciously glanced at the girl half kneeling in front of him. After lowering his head and looking at her seriously, his sexy Adam's apple bobbed. Even the light mole on his Adam's apple seemed to have become a symbol of desire. Wuxia felt an itchy and numb feeling on his lower abdomen. He took a deep breath without batting an eyelid and actively suppressed the darkness and desire in his eyes. Yin, get up first. The man's voice was abnormally hoarse. Chapter 1374. For a moment. He did not understand why he wanted to suffer. Are you going to stand while I sit on the sofa? Biyao asked without looking up. Wuxia, what was the difference? The man forcefully suppressed the beautiful and hopeless evil thoughts in his mind and did not say anything else. However, to Wuxia, every minute and second of applying the medicine was torture. When Biyao was finally done applying the medicine, she had just stood up when a coat suddenly covered her head. Biyao, what was going on? By the time Biyao took off her coat, the man had already left her sight. The next day, Yun University welcomed an unprecedented group of important guests. Continent K's 191st Laboratory and the teachers and students of Continent K's University came to visit Yun University for an academic exchange. Wang Huiying sat in the first row and watched Yun University's internal competition. When she did not see that person, she secretly calmed down. Thinking about it, how could that person be so bored as to come to school? Miss Wang has joined Continent K's University at such a young age. You can be considered the face of Continent K's University. I don't know who to congratulate. The professor sitting at the side smiled. That's right. It's Yun University's honor to invite the teachers and students of Continent K's University and the 191st Laboratory over. I hope Miss Wang won't be stingy with your guidance and valuable opinions. Unexpectedly, when someone said this, Wang Huiying smiled and said, do you have any objections? For students of your school standard, even if they are lucky enough to enter K University, I will still persuade them to withdraw. As soon as she finished speaking, Wang Huiying patted the non-existent creases on her purple leather coat. Even though her tone was smiling, her words were especially hurtful. The expressions of the professors of Yun University changed, but no one said anything for a moment. After all, Wang Huiying was an important guest invited by the school. In addition, Wang Huiying was from the 191st Laboratory. No one dared to say anything. However, when the K University students saw this scene, they immediately felt superior in their hearts. Their expressions were filled with mockery and smugness. They did not know what the principal was thinking. He actually allowed them to have an academic exchange with Yun University. How could a university that couldn't even make it into the top 10 in the world be compared to the world-renowned K University? Sun Jeping smiled gently. Yun University's motto is to put the students first. All of our students can be said to be some of the best children in the country. Of course, we also believe that these children will make good researchers in the future. There's an old saying in country A, don't bully a poor young man. Wang Huiying sneered, Professor Sun is really a philanthropist. How can one become a good researcher with no talent for scientific research and only rely on imagination? The professors present were irritated by these words, but they could only suppress their anger in front of visitors from afar. On the other hand, Wang Guanchen, who was sitting beside Wang Huiying, did not hide the arrogance and delight on his face. It was as if he had vented his anger. Who would have thought? Suddenly, there was a burst of applause not far away. Miss Wang is right. Scientific research talent is indeed very important. Everyone turned around and saw Si Qingyan walking over slowly. But before Wang Huiying could raise her eyebrows and curl her lips, she heard him say, "No wonder Miss Wang calls you little." Si Qingyan asked slowly with a smile, "However, our family is actually not that old. I don't know where the rumors came from, but they made it seem like our family is very old." Then, Wang Huiying's expression froze, and the atmosphere turned cold. Chapter 1375. Not only Wang Huiying, but even Master K and the usually cold and arrogant experimenters from the 191st laboratory froze strangely when they heard this familiar name. In the face of absolute dominance, all arrogance was fleeting. When the professors of Yun University saw these people's faces turn green and red, they instantly felt happy and smiled as they spoke to them. "Sai, what's the big deal? He and Miss Wang are both scientific research geniuses. Their abilities are on par." The PhD student beside him silently glanced at his supervisor. This was an old conman. As expected. When Wang Huiying heard this, her face turned even paler. She looked like she was about to flip the table and fall out with him. This name was the pain of the young big shots in the industry in the past. Before the appearance of, the young scientific research geniuses dominated a region and each had their own merits. In the end, the appearance of this person shattered the pride of this group of geniuses who were proud of their top talents, including Wang Huiying. Wang Huiying squeezed out a fake smile. "I don't think I've heard any news from him in the past 2 months, right? Could it be that something has happened? If it were anyone else, they might only start to spread rumors after a year or two without any news. But it was different. The higher everyone's expectations of her, the greater the pressure she had to bear." Si Qingyan suppressed the darkness in his eyes. Actually, his heart ached for Bei Yunj. This guy was so young, but he had received so much attention from all over the world. Just as the professors did not know how to answer, Si Qingyan said coldly, "He's old enough." Before anyone could react, he continued, "He has to spend time in a relationship." Instantly, the atmosphere was strangely silent again. So, he had not been doing scientific research for the past 2 months because he had gone to date? Good Lord. To think that the outside world had already started to spread the news that he had lost his talent. There were even more ridiculous rumors that there was no such person at all. It was said that Country A had fabricated him to fool the international scientific research community. It was to attract the attention of other high-end scientific research organizations and achieve cooperation. I really want to meet him in person when I'm free. Wang Huiying also smiled, but she looked at the people in the competition and seemed to be chatting casually. I don't want to keep spreading rumors that Country has secretly fabricated such a powerful character to cause a commotion in the international scientific research community. Even I almost believed it. Don't you think so? In fact, it wasn't just Wang Huiying. Even the professors of Yun University had never seen this mysterious upstart in the scientific research field. They didn't understand why such a super scientific research genius was hidden at the top. However, they believed that the state would never do such a thing as a fictional character. However, although Si Qingyan tried his best to hide it, he could not help but laugh. He realized that everyone was looking at him, so he just leaned back casually. "Miss Wang, if it's really a fictional character, how can you reject Farisk? If that's the case, I might as well write it myself. Reject Farisk and send the guest presenter to the hospital." The things he did were indeed crazy beyond belief. No matter where he was, this kind of character would be unique. But I have a feeling that Miss Wang will see it. Si Qingyan looked at Wang Huiying, his smile not reaching his eyes. "Sister, don't take it to heart. Those flies from Yun University are a bunch of trash." Wang Guanchen followed behind Wang Huiying and immediately said enthusiastically, "You're a genius of 191. It's only a matter of time before you surpass him." End of chapter. Chapter 1376. Wang Huiying glanced at Wang Guanchen from bottom to top in disgust and sneered. "Alright, you don't have to worry about me. You, on the other hand, can't even compare to a freshman, and you still have the cheek to ask me for help? Wang Guanshan's expression stiffened as he clenched his fists. He hated this cousin of his because she had always been high and mighty and had never left him any dignity. However, compared to Wang Huiying, he could not accept Bai Yunj, an ordinary person who was nothing, acting arrogantly and looking down on him. Sister, Wang Huiying's expression improved slightly. She's just a wild girl. We'll deal with her on Monday. This time, 191 is here for Higgins and Fernandes. Fernandes Group? Isn't that in our nation? Wang Guanshan asked. Wang Huiying said, we are indeed here to cooperate with Higgins. However, we recently heard that Mr. Fernandes is also in Yuncheng, so we plan to meet them. Didn't Higgins only rise in power in the past 2 years? Do they need you to meet them personally? Wang Guanshan was suspicious. When Higgins was glorious, you were still in school. Wang Huiying sneered. However, although Higgins has been lonely before, based on their current momentum, it's only a matter of time before they surpass that year. We are requesting for cooperation this time because of their technology core, VE. When Wang Guanshan heard this, he understood that VE was someone he could not afford to offend. However, he was even more puzzled. Since when did Yuncheng have such hidden talents? At the same time. In the hotel's penthouse suite. You're an elder, and you're arguing with a little girl? Are you crazy, or is she too capable? Even Tang Boyang did not expect his father to be so protective of Bai Yunj. He gritted his teeth. Father, don't you think that Bai Yunj is not worthy of entering our Fernandes family? What does it have to do with you whether Shidu likes her? What's so good about our family? Isn't it just a little more money? Besides, Shidu doesn't even want to enter the Fernandes family. The old man's face darkened as he pointed at Tang Boyang with his walking stick. Roland, if you want to find trouble with that girl, I'll pretend that I don't have a son like you. Dad. How can you, for an outsider? Enough. That girl is much better than you were when you were young. Old Master said unhappily, you and Shidu have never watched television with me, nor have you read the newspaper to me in the morning. Roland did not expect that Bai Yunj would be able to bribe the old man with such a small favor. In fact, when they were in Nili, Bai Yunj was not idle either. It was just that he saw the old man waiting quietly by himself every time. It was too lonely. That was why she had come up with ways to annoy him and make him angry. On one hand, the old master despised her, but on the other hand, he hoped that she would stay for a few more days. If I could choose, I would prefer her to be my daughter or granddaughter. I won't give you a single cent of my family's property. I'll give it all to her. Fernandes did not hide his love for Bai Yunj. After Fernandes left, Tang Boyang took a deep breath and immediately called Qi Wuxiu with a gloomy face. Qi Wuxiu, what do you want to do with Bai Yunj? If this continued, he would not be able to compare to this wild girl in the Fernandes family status. Qi Wuxiu sneered and his tone was not good. Tang Boyang, are you really useless, or are you good at acting? He gritted his teeth and asked, why didn't you tell me that Bai Yunj has someone protecting her? Chapter 1377. The 2 people he had sent to follow her had lost all contact a few days ago. Qi Wuxiu knew very well what this meant. This meant that his men had been captured by the police or army of Country A. But Tang Boyang, this useless person, did not tell him anything in advance. He couldn't even figure out the background of a little girl. What? Tang Boyang did not expect Qi Wuxiu's men to be captured. Roland, I'll give you another chance. Find out who's around Bai Yunj. With that, Qi Wuxiu hung up. Meanwhile, Tang Boyang's mind was in a mess as he held the phone in a daze. There was actually someone by Bai Yunj's side that Qi Wuxiu was afraid of. Monday. Wang Huiying and the rest's faces darkened because they could not make an appointment with Higgins and Fernandes. However, at the same time, Wang Guanshan, who was desperately trying to find trouble with Bai Yunj, could not find her either. In the laboratory. Why are you here today? Si Qingyan was doing an experiment when he stopped and glanced at her from the corner of his eye. You don't have class today? I told Professor Huang that you asked me for help, Bei Yunj said naturally as she lay on Si Qingyan's couch. Si Qingyan paused. Was this something a human would do? With Huang Zui's temper, wouldn't he come over to settle the score with him? Si Qingyan took a deep breath and decided to change the topic. Do you know that someone from Continent K is here? I heard that even the people from Laboratory 191 are here. Bei Yunj stopped flipping through the electronic documents. 191. Si Qingyan thought that Bei Yunj did not know about Laboratory 191 and explained, it's the number 1 laboratory in Continent K, didn't you know about it when you went to K University? Bei Yunj nodded vaguely. Recently, the people from Laboratory 191 had been chasing her closely, especially the head of the Shi family and Oz. They were afraid that the Wang family would usurp the throne and ask her every day when she would return to Continent K to hold the succession ceremony. At the thought of this, Bei Yunj's eyelids twitched. She decided to avoid the people from Laboratory 191. However, no matter how hard Bei Yunj tried to avoid it, trouble would still come knocking on her door. Noon. Bei Yunj had just eaten with Song Yao in the canteen when a few people suddenly sat beside them. Wang Guanchen placed the plate on the table, crossed his legs and sat beside Bei Yunj, eating in big mouthfuls. Bei Yunj, who have you been hiding from recently? Listen to Yen. Opposite him, Song Yao stopped her chopsticks and looked at Wang Guanchen with a strange gaze. This was the first time she had met someone who dared to provoke Bei Yunj. As expected, she turned around and saw Bei Yunj exchanging glances with her. Bei Yunj said slowly, let's talk after dinner. This sentence was obviously directed at Song Yao. Wang Guanchen thought that Bei Yunj was afraid of him and was tactfully giving in to him. Sure, but classmate Pei, remember what you said. Don't hide from me. The arrogance on Wang Guanchen's face made the corners of Lu Yuanxi and Chu Zhixing's mouths twitch. Where did this confidence come from? Hearing this, Bei Yunj lost her appetite. Hide from you? Bei Yunj looked up at Wang Guanchen and seemed to have suddenly remembered something. Her beautiful eyes curled up. Ah, I almost forgot. So is it the Wang family in Continent K, that freeloader? Instantly, the smug look on Wang Guanchen's face froze with the atmosphere. End of chapter. Chapter 1378. Wang Guanchen's expression darkened bit by bit. Pei, Yun, Gu. These 3 words seemed to be squeezed out from between his teeth. Bei Yunj slowly raised his eyebrows and continued to add fuel to the fire. Are you used to the food in Yin University? Will student Wang have indigestion? He was mocking Wang Guanchen's family for being addicted to living off women and stabbing a knife into their hearts. Bei Yunj put down his chopsticks and left with the plate. Eat slowly. Song Yao and the rest left as well. At this moment, Wang Guanchen's expression was already dark as he knocked over the plate angrily and kicked the table, causing a moment of silence and onlookers in the canteen. But no one dared to go up and talk to him. In the afternoon, Bei Yunj had just called Lin Longjun and confirmed that Lin Longjun was progressing smoothly. She had already controlled the spread of the virus and felt much more relieved. However, she did not expect to see Sun Jeping on the other side making a call when she hung up the call. However, the other party on the phone was obviously angry. She could only hear Sun Jeping coaxing this ancestor. Be good, don't be angry. Grandpa is already preparing to go to the hospital to see you. The toys and snacks you wanted are all in my hands now. Bei Yunj looked up and saw Sun Jeping holding a pile of things in his hands. He could only use his neck and shoulder to hold the phone, but some snacks still fell to the ground. I don't care. You have to come and see me within an hour. The person on the other end of the line said angrily in a childish voice before hanging up the phone. At this moment, Sun Jeping staggered and the glass bottle of milk he was holding fell. His expression changed. Just as his mind was in a mess from anxiety, a fair and delicate hand caught the milk steadily. Sun Jeping heaved a sigh of relief. When he looked up and saw Bei Yunj, he immediately smiled and said, Student Pei, thank you so much. Why is Professor Sun carrying so many things? Bei Yunj picked up the toys from the ground. It's all because of that little ancestor. She wants these things no matter what. I have to send them to the hospital quickly, Sun Jeping said helplessly. Bei Yunj was silent for a moment. I'll go with you. How can you do that? Sun Jeping frowned and rejected. But you can't carry so many things. Bei Yunj glanced at her watch and raised her eyebrows slightly. I'm free until 5:00 in the afternoon. Didn't you say that you wanted me to meet her? Sun Jeping agreed and talked to Bei Yunj about Jingjing along the way. Bei Yunj didn't show any signs of impatience, but occasionally chimed in. When they entered the hospital, before they even pushed open the door to the ward, they could already hear the voices inside. Stupid. How are you going to teach me if you don't even know this? She sounded like a delicate and willful little girl. Bei Yunj's eyelids twitched, and she followed Sun Jeping inside. Jingjing, you can't do this to brother Huang Qian. Sun Jeping reprimanded her. Jingjing pursed her lips, and her eyes were full of pride. I didn't say anything wrong. I don't need him to teach me these things. I just asked him a question and he couldn't answer it. If he's not an idiot, then what is he? The little girl was indeed very smart, probably because of her father's excellent genes. Huang Qian, who was next to her, was extremely embarrassed. He exchanged glances with Bei Yunj and recognized Bei Yunj. Hello, Junior. Bei Yunj nodded as a greeting. Under Sun Jeping's hospitality, she just sat by the side and played computer games. When Jingjing saw that Bei Yunj didn't even look at her, she was inexplicably angry. P.S. 3 more chapters. Chapter 1379. Jingjing sulked and played with the Rubik's Cube. When Sun Jeping went out to get the medicine, Huang Qian also went out to avoid him. Thus, he could only let Bei Yunj stay. Jingjing is smarter than her father. It's my fault for not teaching her well. She has no manners at all, Sun Jeping said apologetically. Huang Qian shook his head awkwardly. Sister Jingjing is smart. I really don't have anything to teach her. Sun Jeping was also worried. It's good to be smart. No one can control her. She's lawless. In the past, when Jingjing's illness was not serious, he had also hired a teacher to teach her. In the end, they all retreated with pale faces and even returned the deposit. When Huang Qian heard this, he remembered that Bei Yunj was looking after Jingjing. He began to worry nervously. Would Junior Pei be tormented by this little princess who deliberately made things difficult for her? At the same time, the ward was completely silent. Jingjing could not take it anymore and started to lose her temper. You're all idiots. Bei Yunj's eyelids twitched. She just glanced at her indifferently and continued with her work. Jingjing was speechless. For the first time, she realized that her aggression was so weak. Jingjing said, only idiots play computer games every day. The aggressiveness of this sentence was even more obvious. Indeed, it attracted Bei Yunj's attention. However, when Bei Yunj's eyes really landed on her, the little girl knew that she was afraid. It was as if someone who did not like to bother with the little rascal was provoked one day. When Jingjing saw Bei Yunj walk over, she slowly picked up the test paper on the table. What? I don't want you to teach me how to do my homework. I can do it. Jingjing said confidently. However, the next moment, she saw Bei Yunj roll the test paper into a stick and then hit her head. Little rascal, don't you have any manners? After being taught a lesson, Jingjing immediately exploded. What are you doing? Bei Yunj said lazily, I'm trying to see if I can make you smarter. When the little girl heard this, she was furious and kept silent for a long time. Then, she asked incredulously, are you saying that I'm stupid? Obviously, this was the first time the little girl had suffered such a great humiliation. After Jingjing came to her senses, she chuckled, the knowledge of these questions, you all learned it when you went to college. I am only a junior high school student now. Upon hearing this, Bei Yunji's beautiful eyes twinkled as she stared straight at her. After a while, he poked her forehead with his index finger. "You're that good?" It was the first time that Jingjing had seen someone who was more beautiful than on TV, not to mention Bei Yunji's pair of seductive foxy eyes. Almost no one could look at her with a smile for more than 10 seconds. In an instant, his face turned red. "You," Jingjing pursed her light pink lips, and her small hand could not help but grab the small quilt. She said in a fierce voice, "Grandpa said that my illness will be cured, and I will become a very powerful researcher." She looked up at Bei Yunji and said, "Everyone will treat me well and protect me. I'm a genius that everyone is fighting for." In the past 2 days, there were indeed people who understood the situation. They called and prepared to transfer Jingjing to the military hospital. Really? Why do geniuses need to be protected? Bei Yunji's words made Jingjing pause for a moment. She was speechless for a moment. Because, child, if someone protects you at all costs, it is not because you are very powerful, but because you carry the hopes of many people. Bei Yunji smiled and pinched her cheek as a punishment. Chapter 1380. Jingjing was also inexplicably afraid of this strange person. The person in front of her was different from Sun Jieping's former students. She was not easy to deal with and was not easy to understand. No, as a researcher, you will be respected by many people and have a lot of money to spend. Brother Tang Cheng went to country R and has endless money to spend. Jingjing's eyes were full of desire. As long as I grow up, I can support Grandpa. Grandpa won't have to be talked about by those students behind his back. Professor Sun won't go to country R. Bei Yunji began to peel the apple slowly. Why? Jingjing stared at Bei Yunji with resentment in her eyes. Professor Sun's father was detained abroad for 10 years. In the end, he sneaked back to China. After Bei Yunji finished speaking, Jingjing thought Bei Yunji would hand her the peeled apple, but she saw Bei Yunji eating it by herself. Jingjing, you have time to drive people away, but you don't have time to get yourself an apple? After saying that, Bei Yunji went out to answer a phone call. She didn't do anything, but she had the hot-tempered little girl under control. Bad woman. Jingjing was very angry. She seemed to have suddenly thought of an idea, and her eyes were shining. After a while, Bei Yunji returned to the ward and found that the person on the bed was gone. This little girl needs to be taught a lesson. Downstairs. Jingjing avoided the crowd and breathed the fresh air in the garden. While the security guards were not paying attention, she quickly ran out of the hospital. How is she good? How can she teach me a lesson? Jingjing thought that Bei Yunji might be scolded by Sun Jieping because she went missing. She immediately felt relieved. Let Bei Yunji teach her a lesson. However, Jingjing jumped to the roadside stall to buy snacks, but she didn't notice that someone had been following her for a long time. When she walked to a place where there was no one, she suddenly heard a voice behind her. Jingjing? Hearing this familiar voice, Jingjing suddenly turned pale and dropped the chocolate ice cream she secretly bought. It seems that Sun Jieping, that old fart, has raised you well. A ruffian youth with 2 burly strangers beside him. But I'm still your cousin. How about you go back and have a chat with your cousin? Go away. Jingjing took a step back. Her eyes were red. If it weren't for Sun Jieping, Jingjing would have been sold by this rogue cousin who only knew how to drink and gamble. How long can that old fart take care of you? Xiang Jing, don't forget your surname just because your parents are dead. You don't know what's good for you. See how I'll deal with you. The young man's face darkened, and he stepped forward to grab Xiang Jing. You really don't know what you are, do you? The young man had just pushed Xiang Jing to the ground and grabbed her collar, wanting to teach her a lesson. Suddenly, a voice sounded around them. Yo, it's quite lively here. Xiang Jing's eyes were filled with fear and tears. When she heard the voice, she turned her head hopefully, but she didn't expect it to be Bei Yunji. Who are you? I'm warning you, don't meddle in other people's business. The young man was on guard and grabbed Xiang Jing's collar. He wasn't so stupid that he couldn't be saved. He could see that the sloppy person in front of him was more or less dangerous. I'm looking after this child. Now I have to take him back to report. Bai Yunj looked at his watch and said slowly. One of the people on the other side was stunned. He said greedily, Brother Xiang, the watch in that woman's hand seems to be worth tens of millions. You're tuning into the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.